I know. I just don't have my 2A bro shirt on. Yeah, that'd be fucking amazing.
Anyways, hi everyone. We wanted to release a little doodad thing before the podcast here because, you know, as we kind of make these and go through them, who are we to be the arbiters of what is right and what is wrong, and who are we to kind of like judge others? You know, kind of that sort of deal. And we're three morons on a podcast, and sometimes we get out of control and just riff off of each other. It's a comedy podcast, kind of mostly, and then we really like to do as much digging as we can. Regardless, like we even mess up and say some things that are not correct.
Yeah,
not incorrect.
No, we have
there is opinions.
Yeah. This is a comedic podcast with very serious undertones, right? The underbelly is very serious. I would assume, right?
I never touch the underbelly unless it's getting serious.
Unless, that being said, I want you guys to know that, look, I say a bunch of dumb all the time, right? That doesn't mean that Nolan believes me. Look,
I believe him all the time.
It doesn't mean that Tackett believes that dumb shit. It just means that I do, right? And it doesn't mean that he stands for the exact same things that I say. We all have opinions. All of our opinions are different, right? And just because you represent something doesn't mean that I represent it. I get it. We are associated with one another. So primarily, we share the same sentiments, values, and morals. However, our views, they shift on some things and some people. Sure. The fact of the matter is that everybody that we're bringing up, most of whom we are going to be talking about in this episode, is not meant for us to talk about those people. It is merely examples of why we all need to come together in the Second Amendment and why we need to stand behind the premise of what the Second Amendment means, which is they will not take our right to bear arms away. No matter what, we do not equivocate. That is the point of this podcast. We're giving examples of people who have done the opposite of that and how detrimental that could be to our constitutional rights. I just want to make that very clear before we go into this. This is not bashing on anybody, although you do a pretty good job of doing that
if you know me in real life.
Well, but that's the thing. It's
and I have done a very good job of that with people that I don't particularly care for either.
Yeah. I go on a pretty significant rant about some it's very just personal opinion.
Yeah.
It's personal opinion.
There's absolutely nothing wrong
if you know me in real life, you've heard me say it. If you've ever come in the gun store that I worked at in Virginia, you've heard me say it. So
you got anything else? Enjoy the show.
Does everybody know?
Does everybody know that?
Does everybody know that? Because now everybody knows that. How do you know that PETA didn't exist in a different form?
It's every time I go on Walmart. I'm always like, everyone needs to vote. Everyone needs to own a gun. Freedom for everyone. And I walk around Walmart and I'm like, well.
Yeah. Going through TSA.
Oh, you have the pre-check?
I got the pre-check.
Fancy Jake. Yeah, pre-check.
I know.
He flies in the front of the plane too, doesn't he? Remember they had those like bicycles that had the plastic dirt bike fairings? Like it looked like a dirt bike.
Even those.
My neighbor had one of those, and I wanted to fight that kid the whole time I was growing up.
Yeah.
You're not cool enough to have that bike.
I know.
It was.
That's all I wanted was a fucking dirt bike when I was a kid, man, or some sort of motorized anything like a fucking GoPed.
Yeah, I had a little 50cc dirt bike, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Ripped the shit out.
Fucking piece of shit. Me and Nolan.
That's the way it should.
Me and that one, we would have robbed you.
Yeah.
Names.
I was in karate, dude. I would have fucked you guys up.
I would have punched you right in the fucking.
I would have talked a lot of shit about how you were a karate nerd and got kicked.
I flick.
I would have punched you right in the mouth to get a hold of that, dude. I'm not gonna lie. All right.
What?
Welcome everybody to the 2A Procast. On my left we have Sir Jacob Dines, and on my right we have Tackett.
Hi.
That's it. That's all he goes by.
That's all we're going by.
Hola, muy squarta. Today on today's 2A Procast, we're going to be talking about some juicy little situation. We're talking about the Second Amendment, of course. The creamy topic.
We can't talk about them.
The creamy topic on the docket today is going to be I'm 2A.
I'm pro 2A.
But I'm pro 2A, but and all of the people, entities, influencers, important individuals, politicians who are in positions to genuinely influence the tides of change in the Second Amendment, and how absolutely compromising it is for these people to say, you know what, I support the Second Amendment, but we can't have these types of guns in people's hands. So that's going to be the topic of conversation. Some of the people who have violated this, just to give people a little wet their beak a little bit. we got senators like Pat Toomey. We've got the NRA. We've got Dick's fucking Sporting Goods. We've got, you guessed it.
Oh, I'm glad we're going to talk about Dick's.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because that one's just funny.
You guessed it. Who else? What's that guy's name? The fucking super sniper Navy SEAL guy?
Donald Trump.
No, not but Donald Trump is on this list.
Timothy Kennedy?
Yes, Tim Kennedy.
He wasn't Navy SEAL, but...
No, dude, he was a Marine Force Recon, Navy SEAL, Scout Sniper,
Marine Force
fucking
drug dealer.
MMA, fucking UFC. Oh yeah, what else?
His dad was a Delta Force drug dealer for the Reagan administration.
That's
and he
right.
knew Pablo Escobar personally. And this is all things that he said live on Fox News.
Yeah, he was in his kitchen while
Crazy.
I
Yeah,
pick up
he
a
answered.
cell phone and talk to
I had to
Pablo
explain to Pablo Escobar why my dad hadn't brought the cocaine back. Like you just can't say that. Dude.
I'm like, listen,
He said he was 8.
I'm
All
not
right,
saying
hold
I'm not saying that none of that shit is true. What I'm saying is
Immediately on.
it's all a lie, or he is genuinely, and this could be possible, he is genuinely the most interesting man in the fucking
The
world.
most ninja ever to ninja.
It could be, man.
I know. Well, the crazy thing is like I was kind of doing a little research on him last night. This is still Tim Kennedy we're talking about. I was doing a little research on him last night, and I was like,
Not at this podcast.
what?
Nothing, continue.
Okay. No. I
There's
don't
almost
know.
some
We're not at this point in the podcast, but I was doing a little research on him. I just like looking him up, and he is a pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Fucking man.
It's his
I was
list
like,
of accolades.
because I was like, I thought he
Yeah.
was just like interested in fighting. I'm like, no, he's a fucking black belt in
he's a
jiu-jitsu.
solid ass dude. He's
And,
got
like,
a
he's a
great
pilot,
military
yeah.
career. He's been on History
Fucking
Channel. He's done so
Christ,
many
dude.
good things, but then you're just still a lying douchebag.
Yeah,
Like, you
all right,
just
so-
say so much stuff that's not true.
Which is great. Anyway,
I hate
yeah.
Tim
There's
Kennedy.
a lot
I
of
don't
people on
know.
this list.
We shouldn't have
You're
said
not
that
gonna
name.
believe this shit, but there are people on this list.
Should probably put a
Well,
blacklist.
you're gonna believe this. Black Rifle Coffee Company is one of them. The NRA, like I had mentioned, is one of them. Here's one that may get your goat. That is gonna get the proverbial goat of many who are in this podcast right now who are listening. Hickok 45.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Tacticon.
Holy shit! It's your boy, dude.
My dad?
It's your motherfucking boy, dude.
Yeah, but that's
But we're
every-
going to go through all the
that's every
instances
guy
on
that
this
age.
particular podcast of the whys and the wherefores calling into war. Yet another one.
Really?
I know, just a subtle one here and there. But
Oh man, I think
these
I'm
are
gonna
the
end up being
equivocators.
one.
And
Am I
hey,
going to be one?
I am actually one, and I'll explain that later in the
Yeah.
podcast. Dude, I'm one. And
What a
when I
hook.
say I am pro 2A, but I mean I've been a victim of that. So we're gonna cover all that. I just wanted to give you guys kind of some insight. That way you could just fucking turn it off now if you're not interested in hearing any of this, which is fine. So
Okay.
because that's really all we're going to be covering today. I will be showing my butthole on camera probably later on, probably minute 47 or 48. If
Watch
you want
the
to,
spike
if you want
just happen
to,
of
if you
people
want to stick
skipping.
around, I will. I'll put on just a quick scene.
Make it a
of
chapter.
the butthole. Yeah, full
Jake's
chapter.
butthole.
Right. And then what else was I going to cover today? Oh, I did want to touch on if any of you in the audience are, I was talking to Nolan yesterday and I found this. I had a very profound
THOT thought?
it was a theory, right? It was more of a conspiracy theory, but it was, I don't know if it was conspiracy, but I had a very profound thought that I really want you guys to, marinate on and see. So all Christians who are out there, calling all Christians, calling all Jews, call anybody with any sort of religious background. This is going to be incredibly interesting. So stick around for this. I can't tell you where it's going to be, but you're going to want to hear it because it involves Christians, it involves PETA, and it involves unraveling the entire religion of Christianity as we know it. So stick around for that. And
Second chapter.
and
How did we go from Jake's butthole to unraveling Christianity, but like in a positive way?
in a positive way, indeed. Let's address the proverbial elephant in the room. You're looking at a different podcast room here.
Well, it's the same podcast room with different lighting. Yeah.
And with a much cooler rifle over there for the time being, for now.
Whatever, man. All right. Jesus. Yeah, you sound like my fucking wife.
Wow.
He's like,
Like, I really
Like,
need you to know.
the sky is blue. Well, it's
all the
actually a fucking hue of blue.
Dude, if she listens to this,
I know she does listen to some of
you're gonna be
these.
fucking put in the doghouse to it.
I know, dude.
Okay.
Well, I fuck with her all the time about that. I'm like,
Anyways.
why can't we just agree on some things? Like,
I thought that it
sometimes
was-
you know what I do? Like, you know what I've caught myself doing this because she just likes to be the dissenting opinion sometimes. She likes to, play devil's advocate.
Right.
Put me in my box.
That's because women are the devil.
So what I'll do is if I want her to agree with me, I will actually just start with the thing that I think she's going to say as devil's advocate, and it's that reverse psychology. So if I say, for example, dumb example, but if I'm like,
I hate that stuff.
I really like Donald Trump, I'll just be like, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. And then she'd be like, well, actually, like he's done a lot of really good things. But if I started with, I love Donald Trump.
You mean she's not an extremist? Is all you're telling me?
Okay. It could be anything though. I could be like, the sky is blue. My butthole is brown. Like, there's going to be some sort of dissenting opinion. Prove it, right? Is that what you're about to say?
Well, I was about to
We're
say
gonna
is,
find out.
When was the last time you looked at your butthole, Jake?
Yeah.
The question is, when's the last time I bleached my butthole, Nolan?
Well, I know because I have your Amazon account.
Is that why you were an hour and a half late
I've
today?
seen your orders on your Amazon account, jackass.
That's why he was running
Okay.
late. His hair bleached. Had to get
Anyway, a little
transplanted down
housekeeping stuff out of the way. I want to address the other elephant in the room, which is your sick ass shirt.
Fuck yeah!
So if anybody in here are Led Zeppelin fans, this is Tacticon lead slinging.
If you're not, you're a nerd.
Yeah,
Get out.
honestly, honestly though, like I don't care what type of music you like, Led Zeppelin needs to be in the playlist somewhere.
Yeah, if
It's like
you
one of the most
don't
influential
like
bands of
Zeppelin,
all time.
Good.
Like,
Jesus Christ.
and
dude.
Led Zeppelin leads right into Red Hot.
Listen,
Chili
and I
Peppers.
don't want to hear anything about any band members with any stupid controversy.
No.
Listen,
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
Led Zeppelin.
I don't care if they were all like
Zeppelin.
dress-wearing
it's
pedophiles.
fucking
It's
Zeppelin.
the
They made
music.
amazing
Just-
fucking music.
I'm going to claim ignorance on this.
I don't give a shit.
Aerosmith is awesome.
I still listen to R. Kelly when I'm making love.
Well, that's
give a fuck.
appropriate.
What's
That's-
that?
That's the appropriate time to listen to it.
No, it's the appropriate time to listen to it. Technically, if you're sleeping with an underage girl, but
Or date raping people. Yeah.
If you want to
So
build
much
a
editing.
business in the 2A space, look no further than Jacob's t-shirt with the 2A Pro business course.
We
Figure
had-
out your way to 2A greatness.
God.
the 2A Pro course.
You want to.
The 2A Pro, it's less of a course. It's more of a program. The 2A Pro program is a community. It's all of us in there, our entire team at Tacticon. We literally hand deliver you a website. We allow you to drop ship all the Tacticon products, white label products with your personal logo on them and your company's logo on them, and then bring you all the way up into the zenith of the program. That's why I'm looking up the zenith, the summit,
I like
which
saying
is
zenith.
which is your
You guys-
own brand,
Zeppelin.
and sourcing and manufacturing your own products, like legitimately creation of your own products. And you're like, I don't know how to make products. Don't worry, I didn't either. I was like, I fucking was an underwriter before I got
We'll teach
this
you how to
company.
make sweet Zeppelin shirts.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's way easier than you think. Second Amendment has a wide open door for demand. Demand keeps increasing for the Second Amendment.
It's wider than Jake's
It's wider
mouth.
than my mouth. Let's test that real quick. The Second Amendment. I got that in there pretty deep, dude.
I think I went deeper.
The Second Amendment has a wide open demand curve right now. It is growing and growing and growing, and less and less people are actually entering the space because there are so many barriers to entry, because everybody thinks you need like some crazy ass licensing to do what you do. And the answer is no. You just break the law for a little while. And next month, I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that. But it's easier than you think. I mean, I literally ran my business out of my house from my garage for the until I hit about $1.3 million per year. And then I hired my first employee and got my first square footage of lease space. You could do it. We can help you. But get down in the description. The link will be in the description. It is there for you to hit that left click button on your mouse and change your fucking life today. Now, on to the show. What do we...
Get in the 2A Pro Discord server where all the best cats are at.
What if I don't have
Oh,
a
the
garage?
Discord server is free, and it is. If you want direct access to assholes like us and like 2,000 more assholes like the ones you're listening to right now, the 2A Pro Discord server at discord.gg/2A Pro.
I'm not in there.
It is amazing. It's completely
You have to teach
free,
me how to
and
use
there's
Discord.
some chicanery. It's a beautiful, beautiful situation.
Yes.
My wife
That's
knows
it.
how to use Discord.
That's it.
Yeah, use Discord. You're an dude.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
I'll get in there.
Come on.
Get in there.
I'll lead off with uncensored Jake butthole pictures for the Discord. That's the teaser to go to the Discord.
All right, so
I'm pro 2A butt.
I'm pro 2A butt.
I'm pro 2A butts.
Have you ever heard the guy say, listen, man, it happens at every barbecue you've ever been at and you're talking about guns and somebody pipes up and says, listen, I love the 2A and I support the 2A, but
Generally
don't you
with a
think that
BMI over
do you
30.
think that everybody needs an AR-15? Do you think that we really need 30-round mags? Do you think that people need belt-fed automatic weapons? Do you think that, right? I don't give a fuck what the butt is. Do you really need an Apache helicopter? The answer is always yes, because if my government's got it, then I need it too. Thoughts?
Should you be
And that's the end of the podcast, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in.
Should you be allowed to buy hand grenades at Walmart with no age restriction or background check? That's always the one that I'm like, I see your point.
Ammunition at Walmart?
No,
with
hand
age-
grenades.
Hand grenades.
Oh, hand grenades at Walmart?
You know, that's always the rebuttal that gets thrown at me that I don't have a good,
Oh,
you know what I
got
mean?
it.
Because I'm like, yeah, I should be able to buy a tank. I should be able to buy whatever I want. If I
Yeah.
want hand grenades, I should be able to buy hand grenades. Like I'm a consenting adult.
I mean, if you were just able to get hand grenades over the counter, I think a lot of people
Dude,
would
go
just
back
be,
to the 50s.
a lot of people would be using hand grenades.
You could buy quarter sticks of dynamite. You know what I
Could
mean?
you
That was
really?
fireworks.
Yeah, people weren't blowing themselves up in the 50s,
So
but we
we-
also didn't have massive mental health issues in the 50s. People, there
Yeah,
were,
we
there
also
were.
didn't have big pharma in the 50s.
What
so
happened to
there's
car
that too.
bombs?
What do you mean?
There's not like nobody's car bombing anymore.
Well, the FBI just started using new tactics when they entrap people. They kind of steered away from the car bomb and went more like Proud Boys. The last good car bomb was
Remember
the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping, where like the FBI, there was like 18 people involved and 4 people went to prison, something like that. Don't quote the numbers, but
Yeah.
like the 4 guys that they put in prison didn't come up with the plan. They didn't get any of the equipment. They didn't make the bombs in the vans. They literally were not complicit in any way. They were just in the vehicles.
They were just kind of tagging along.
Yeah, everyone else that was involved in kidnapping the governor,
Put it down.
everyone else that was involved was an FBI agent or an FBI informant that came up with the plan, all the equipment, everything. And there was just 4 dumbasses that were like, "Yeah, sounds good, dude," in like jail.
Huh.
Yeah,
All right.
I think it got overturned in like the 3rd appellate court or something, but
Fair enough.
it gave the left a great talking point
Nice.
about why you shouldn't have unlimited 2A access. And now we're back on track.
Now we're back on.
on
Now we're back on track.
full
So-
circle like a butthole.
What prompted this was I saw some whispers around the internet about Tim Kennedy and how he had hopped on a podcast with I can't see it in my notes right now.
Lance Armstrong?
Lance Armstrong, there
That
it was.
yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, but I just recently came across it, and I was like, because I had also heard a lot of whispers lately just about, you know, you see things on the internet where like somebody will mention Tim Kennedy, and then somebody else will comment below them like, "Fuck Tim Kennedy," and
Are we
like-
just doing?
and you're like, why is
Are
that?
we doing Tim Kennedy? Is that what we're?
No, we're just doing. No, we're not. We're not doing Tim Kennedy right now. But the goal was it just prompted me to look into it. I'm like, what did he do that pissed everybody off so
wasn't that
much?
bad.
And so when I started digging into it, I was like, oh, he did this. And then I was like, I wonder who else has done this. So I started kind of poking around about anybody and everybody and anything and everything that I can remember off the top of my head, or things that I have read online or in social media that people had a problem with somebody representing the Second Amendment who has also said dumb shit about the Second Amendment.
That was a good riff, dude.
And I came up with Republican Senator Pat Toomey, who like teamed up with Joe Manchin back in 2013 and then again in 2015 to reach across the aisle for a compromise for universal background checks.
Which is a misnomer.
Yeah,
Well, I
universal, like having background checks.
Anytime the
have
federal
done shows.
government says universal background check, the policy that they're talking about is instituting a collection of all the universal background checks. So they are fully aware that you can't buy a gun in any of the 50 states without doing a universal background check.
Right.
It's a play on words. They're attempting to establish a firearms registry, which
Right.
Reagan made illegal
Exactly.
when he gave up machine guns, but he also established that the federal government would never be able to have a digitized, searchable record of firearms ownership, which draws into question 4473s because those are a digital record of firearms ownership.
Before we start jumping into names or organizations, I think the most important thing to kind of talk about with this whole discussion is why the I'm pro 2A, but we need to establish a place where it is just unequivocally that dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery, that you have to give up some ideas and some notions of safety to ensure that there is no infringement on rights. So, like, for example, the question I've been thinking
I'm
about
going to
this
be
for a
so much
second.
harder on the butt side than I thought I was going to be.
Right. So when the question that you brought up, the hand grenades over the counter, Walmart.
Yeah, I never have a good response to that.
So my response to that is it's along the same lines as Elon Musk with Don Lemon. They were talking about censorship. And Don Lemon was on the side of saying, well, do you think that we should prevent people from saying these things? And Elon said, no, that's censorship, that we don't do that. If it's illegal, we will get rid of it off the platform. And I think it comes along with the same idea of it's not illegal. To have a hand grenade is not illegal. Throwing hand grenades into people's houses, that's bad. And this harkens back to we need to build up a moral and just society, right? But whose morals are we going to go off of? But if we start banning hand grenades, look where that's gotten us. We banned dynamite. It all started from banning dynamite, guys. No, but it is we can't ban this because they'll then ban that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
might-
really, it all started with the NFA in 1934.
Right.
People are either murderers or they're not murderers.
Yeah.
I can guarantee
Murderers
you,
will get taken care of
Right.
under the bounds of the law. And so, sure,
Oh, man.
you have a fucking hand grenade. You could drop it through somebody's living room window. If you have a truck, you could also drive it through somebody's living room
that's a good
window,
point.
right? So it's like murderers are going to murder. Like they
drones
might be
with
able to.
explosives are very popular nowadays.
And building an explosive is
hard.
it's not fucking hard, man.
hard.
Like people can figure it out. They can do it. If there's a will, there's a way. You know, I don't think anybody's just gonna like drop grenades and like road rage incidents and shit like that. It's not gonna be like there's just not gonna be grenades going off all over the
Dude,
United
the
States.
shit that I was doing at like 12 years old in my buddy's backyard.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Even just like Clorox bombs are pretty square. Like a 2-liter Clorox bomb will pop a mailbox.
Like,
pretty
I
good.
mean,
You know where they could get
I don't know.
grenades? Do you know where anybody could get grenades?
the hardware store.
Afghanistan. Like pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Oh, they're probably.
And
there's
you know
probably a ton that came across the
who
southern
wasn't
border.
like just like rolling grenades out all over the place were just like Afghani citizens. Like they just weren't like out there just like throwing grenades around.
Yeah,
So
they have a pretty open supply to hand grenades.
Yeah.
They could have been throwing,
and they're
hand
not
grenades
just
at
like
you guys a
rolling
lot.
fucking hand grenades into their neighbors. you
They're
know,
kind of
fucking
underwhelming. You know,
Hey,
like you get
they are,
You get
yeah,
into basic
yeah,
training and you get to like the
it a 10
grenade
meter
day
kill
and you're
radius?
like,
Yeah.
it's 5.
5.
Yeah,
It's what?
it's 5-meter kill and like I think 50
Yeah, it's 5-meter
wound.
kill radius and a
But like you get to basic training and you get to throw your shit and you're like,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Like I expect to see like a house go. Like,
No.
Hollywoodisms.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's Hollywoodisms.
Hollywoodisms.
It's just the same. Like the reason, you know, a suppressor doesn't go. A suppressor doesn't sound like a laser.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you first hear a suppressor, you're
You
like,
got
oh
good
shit,
sub
it's a crack.
45s or 300s though. It's pretty good.
Yeah, but it still doesn't sound like a laser.
No.
Yeah, they all sound pew pew pew.
We should
like
make,
it would sound
that
like
should
a
be the
fucking-
Tacticon suppressor. You should have the first suppressor on the market that goes pew.
Actually
That
sounds
fucks
like
with
it
the
does.
decibel.
Yes,
And it goes,
that sound. It sounds like it does in all like the 80s and 90s.
yeah, dude.
Yes. Or just your finger guns in the army when you
Yeah.
gotta run around and do field stuff. And you're
Yeah.
like, pew 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 pew.
Pew, 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 pew.
That would be great. Dude, a 240 that actually went pew 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 pew. That made me so happy.
What else?
Subject.
Well, I was just
Well, I
saying
think-
how it's important
yes.
that we cannot, we can't have the but because that will just take away from everything else.
Yes, I will add to that.
Yeah.
We all have to be on the same page because the second we start equivocating, then it's like, well, we're on unstable foundation. When anybody sees unstable foundation, they take advantage of it. They take advantage of it and they feed on that.
If you
And-
fight amongst yourselves,
Yeah.
your enemy has good footing.
We just take the fucking stance that no regulation on the Second Amendment is okay. And we should all take the stance that it would be reasonable for us to, you know, responsibly own Hellfire missiles.
Yeah.
And if we can all get on that page, even though we're never going to be able to own Hellfire missiles,
Yeah.
if we can all get on that page, it will make it a lot. There won't be this debate within our own party of like, well, yeah, we'll give this up, but we won't give that up. We'll give this up, but we won't give that up. We can't equivocate. We cannot compromise.
I
If we
mean-
don't compromise, then everybody on the other side of the aisle will know that we're on solid ground, and they won't think that there's any room to give.
I just thought about this. Just because, let's say, all like firearms regulation and firearms law just gone like that, that doesn't mean Lockheed is going to sell us a Hellfire.
Yeah, true. Well, it also
HK doesn't sell us MP7s, and those aren't illegal.
Like say civilian populace. That's been one of my arguments forever. Is like say the civilian populace can buy belt-fed 240s now. Yeah. Do you know how much a belt-fed 240 costs?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's $15,000 right out of the gate.
Easy,
like, and then linked ammunition is crazy. You're shooting 308. Like there's a barrier to entry on all that stuff to begin with.
Yeah.
Like,
do you know how much an M2 costs?
Yeah. Right. And all that stuff is going to need like parts and barrels and like that shit breaks constantly. And like, it's also like once you shoot a machine gun and you get over the like, just like,
it's not that cool.
It's also, you can get them.
I mean, it's cool. I want to own a 240, but like,
well,
I'm not going to go to the range.
It's a fucking tool.
Right.
Yeah. And I probably offended people out there because they're like, what do you mean a 240, bro? This is not cool. Like a 249, and that was my primary weapon system in the military.
Love it.
It's a great weapon system, but it's also a tool. It's like,
oh man,
it's cool. I don't get that. Like, I get it if you haven't shot one before. You're like, oh my God.
If you can only have
the big grin on your face. But at the end of the day, man, these things are just tools. They're tools of liberty. They are tools of freedom. They're a way for us to be able to protect our God-given rights to being like to live free as human beings, man.
249 or 240 if you can only have one.
249.
Yeah.
100% 249.
I think so.
Without even like questioning it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more wieldy and the ammunition's more available.
It's better like urban. Like you can just hold a block with that thing.
100%. Yep. Absolutely.
And just the way it lets go. Like it makes a statement.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, if I want a 308, I'll put it in a
massive
bolt
urban
action
terrain or massive like not urban. What's the other word?
What? Another? You want me to give you a synonym for terrain
or the opposite
or urban,
of urban?
Or mountains?
The
field.
Yeah, that's what I want to do for.
The field.
Let's get back to the subject. Hey, man. Look, it's not me. It's Jake.
Take it away, Jake Dines. You were listening, people. Do you want to dive into
I will on the NRA first.
Yeah, no, I'm going to start with me. I'm going to start with myself.
Fantastic.
I'm going to start with what I will fully admit that I did not appreciate the importance and the brevity of the Second Amendment until I actually started working in the Second Amendment, until I started getting more involved in the community.
You see the actual attack, like when you own the business, you see how much of an attack the federal government is actually having.
And so
especially having an FFL now, like
100%. Wow. And I will, and I think it just, as it continues to get worse, I can't say I would have never got to that point if I hadn't, started the business, because as society has progressively gone the way society has gone, and we're all very well aware of that because we all live in it, I'm sure it would have hit me one day or another where I was like, oh, this is very important, like more important than I thought it was. Yeah. And so what I want to do, first of all, is look to the audience, like anybody listening on this podcast, and say, I commend you. And I will look at you when I say that. I commend you and thank you. One, for listening to this podcast and spending your time, giving your time and dedicating your time to the Second Amendment, spending your time to comment, spending the time to arm yourself, donating money to the FPC and the GOA and NAGR and the foundations that actually keep maintain our liberties. Now, you have no skin in the game, probably, until you get into the 2A Pro course. Which, you have no skin in the game at this point in time, because you're just a citizen who is trying to protect your family. No financial skin in the game is what I mean, right? And so I applaud you for that, because until I was involved in it occupationally, I appreciated it, but I wasn't I wasn't involved in it, to be completely honest with you. I've always been I thought I was a proponent for the Second Amendment until I truly understood what it was and what it meant to be a proponent for the Second Amendment. I used to have these conversations in passing with family members or at a barbecue, where I would say things like, yeah, man, I mean, I don't think anybody should just be able to go in and buy a gun without being, like, what's wrong with making sure that they're licensed to get one, and that they're trained on it. I mean, I literally used to think like that.
It does.
And it didn't take much to push me over the edge to make me feel differently, because I saw the attack on the 2A. And I was never against, like I said, I was never against it, but let me rephrase that. I never felt like I was against the Second Amendment, but looking back, thinking like that, I was. Like, I was not a proponent for the Second Amendment if my thought process was like that. And it took some education. It took doing things that the listeners are doing right now, which is listening to a podcast about Second Amendment stuff and genuinely dedicating their time and their life to being able to protect themselves and protect the Second Amendment, to fully grasp the brevity of what this amendment of our Constitution means.
Right. And it's like Tackett said a couple times, it makes sense when you think about it, right? The idea of being like, well, those people should be trained. They should go out and get training. Like
It's walking
we
around
should
Walmart.
see who should be allowed to have a firearm.
Yeah.
I'll do the same thing. There's a lot of people that probably should not have guns.
It's voting rights.
But that does not mean that you should not have your rights.
Right.
There
Yeah.
are-
I met a lot of people where I was like,
people that
God,
shouldn't drive a car.
I was like, God, I hope to God that man does not own a firearm.
Right.
It's every time I go on Walmart. I'm always like, everyone needs to vote. Everyone needs to own a gun. Freedom for everyone. And I
then
walk
you
around
walk into
Walmart,
Walmart,
and I'm
you're
like, well,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. There was a guy that keeps coming into the gun shop and failing his firearm. In this state, let me preface it with this. In the state of California, for those of you that are not living in the Communist Republic of California, there is something called a firearm like safety test that you have to take. And it asks you questions like, when you're cleaning your gun, should it be loaded or unloaded?
And there are people that fail that question.
And yes. And this is real. Like this, the real, and that's
Always
how
ready.
the questions,
It's on
the
Tacticon.
the questions are. Oh yeah. If you guys didn't know that kind of used to be the company slogan. And then until I got a bunch of, it kind of like still is like, but not officially.
It's deep down one of those jokes that we just have. Always ready, always on.
No, it was never,
good.
it was never miss.
Oh,
never,
that's right.
never miss. Always on Tacticon, and I was the only one that liked it, and everybody else thought it was gay.
I want to
so
institute a company policy right here and now that at all forced fun days, all of our mandatory fun days, we have to get together in a huddle and say that together.
never
as a
miss.
group.
Always on
Tacticon. Whoa, wait, I'm raised here. Wow, watch
Right?
yourself.
Hands in the middle and like,
Oh,
But there's a dude
it
that's
looked
been.
like you just went like that.
Oh,
I was like,
no.
oh,
Oh yeah, no
both
Kyle.
hands.
No see Kyles.
Man, I was watching the last episode and I was like, everyone needs to read Mein Kampf. Why don't you know mine? And I was watching it back like, oh, that's not
good.
not exactly what I meant.
especially if somebody just clips that out, takes it out of context.
That's how I was looking at it. I was like, man, you can clip me in a real weird way off this.
Absolutely.
Oh, and it just did it again too.
I have to be very careful with you guys. My edits are.
What does Fat Electrician do that prevents him from being taken out of context? He does something. What is it?
I don't know. I watch all of his
No,
stuff.
because I was asking you about it. I was like, he wears. I said he's wearing a hat that says something. He does something that prevents him from being taken out of context. Because you were the one that said he does that so that people don't take what he says as out of context, like they've done to Brandon Herrera. What do
Dude,
you
I
remember?
don't
What it
know.
was? Fuck. Anyway, I don't even know what I was originally talking about.
Just never trust like 5-second clips on the internet.
Yeah,
of anything
very true.
ever about any like
Yeah.
yeah.
Very true.
Context is nuance is what matters in life.
I wish I
and
could
we've
remember what that
lost it
was.
completely.
Anyway, going back to it, there's a dude that keeps coming in the shop, and back to your point, there's plenty of people that like shouldn't, like it's okay to have an opinion, to look at somebody and go, that guy probably shouldn't own a gun, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't give anybody the right to take his right away from owning a firearm. And the same speaks to this gentleman that comes in. Guy comes in, fails the test. Now 3 times in a row, he's failed. And 3 times in a row, we've gone over the questions afterwards, said these were the right answers, come back tomorrow and try again. And all 3 times he's failed. Now, he's also failed once or twice with like another company. Because he even said, like, I took it over here at this different shop and took it over here at this different shop, can't seem to pass it. So
we need to take this test on here.
we should, yeah.
Because I want to
So-
know, like, yeah.
So the
We might
question
stay on
is,
subject
like,
then.
the question that was presented to me by the guys that work in the shop are like, should we mandate after the 4th try of you taking the firearm safety test, if you can't pass it, then you don't get any more tries. So the answer to that is no, because here's the goal.
Unfortunately.
You're a human.
Like, fortunately, but
You're a human
unfortunately.
who can learn, hopefully. And if you're a human who can learn, then you should be able to train yourself to get to the point where yes, I can answer those questions appropriately so that you can actually defend yourself. Who are we to be the arbiters of whether or not they're able to come back a 16th or 17th time when they finally do get it right to be able to buy the gun, to be able to defend themselves? So
I want to devil advocate this entire conversation.
for
I'm
it,
like
dude.
dying.
okay.
I'm not saying that this is like my belief here, right?
Just keep starting with devil's advocate.
Yeah, devil's advocate of this, right? You have it like, because I worked in a gun store for 2 years, right? And that is totally a thing. Guy walks through the door and at 50 feet, you're like, I'm not selling you a gun. You know what I mean? Like we had a homeless dude come in one day. He had actively been in a fight either like that morning or the day before. He was still dirty. His knuckles were still bloody. Like no shower, hasn't cleaned up. He had $3,000 in cash in his pocket, and he said out loud, "We were like, we went to show him how the magazine worked. It was an M&P Easy where you got to pull a little thing down.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I don't need to know that. Can you just load it for me? I just need it loaded the one time." And we were like, you know, but like if you have a guy, like what happens with like mental health stuff, or if you have a mental, like a learning disability,
Right.
Like if you have a full on Stephen Hawking that rolls through the door,
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a moral, just devil's advocate on this. Like if I don't know what's the right word for. I say retard so much. I don't know what the right.
Here's the right thing to do.
If you have like a legit like mentally disabled
my
person, like
it's
you
my
should be like,
decision. It's my decision to coach that guy into properly how to use a firearm, how to safely operate a firearm, and how to get through this safety exam so that he can get a firearm. And believe me, he is an individual who I might offer some free training to say, hey, I really, really encourage you to come out to, our facility and get some free training with this firearm. I'm not even going to charge you for it, just so that you can be better. Like the benefit,
there's a line somewhere.
there's a line, but the line comes to, dude, these are private businesses selling firearms. And if your private business chooses not to sell a gun to somebody, that's your decision, man.
I like that answer.
It's your prerogative.
Yeah.
You have
Private
the choice
business control over it, not federal government control.
It's not federal government control over it. I don't want the government telling me when and where a customer can come in and buy a gun. It's my choice. If I don't want to sell a gun to a certain type of person, I should be allowed not to sell a gun to a certain type of person. I should be fucking allowed to.
Like if somebody
Straight
walks in and they're looking at guns and they're mumbling under their breath, this fucking bitch is gonna
Yeah,
get it.
yeah,
Like,
right.
Just maybe like, hey bud, not gonna sell you a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You seem
Man,
a little
All
disgruntled.
of our conversations
today
always
is not
end bad,
it's
dude.
not happening today, man.
Right.
It always comes back to like, can we just have adults with personal responsibility on our society again?
Exactly.
It's just every single conversation comes back to
Yeah.
the same, like, why are there no adults anymore?
Right.
That's
Why do you
because-
have to tell me to wear my seatbelt?
That's
Yeah.
because there's rules and regulations that allow non-adults to exist.
And here's the thing: instead of, and just it just goes along with what I was saying earlier. So same guy comes in, keeps failing the fucking test. So the question is, like, do we establish a hard line and just stop selling him the thing, and tell him that he can't buy from us? Look, the guy, if he wants a gun, he's gonna find it. He's gonna find a way to get a gun somewhere. It is. You're talking about personal responsibility. Is it our personal responsibility for somebody that wants to protect themselves to say, I am going to take the time to walk through the process of owning a firearm, safely handling a firearm, and using that firearm to defend yourself, even if it's a burden for me, so that I can help another fellow American exercise the Second Amendment rights? Or am I just going to be like, fuck that guy, and I'm going to look out for me. I'm going to look out for number one. I'm going to look out for the business.
You mean it's kind of like what we continuously preach of, hey, we should probably help each other out?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that thing.
Not just in the 2A space either. Like
No,
as
just as
humans
human
and
beings.
Americans,
As human
like,
beings.
we should, yeah.
Because anybody else, I mean, the treatment that people get, it is common knowledge that people get treated like shit when they walk into gun shops. I don't even like the way I get treated sometimes.
That is true.
When I
I
get
never
walking
thought
into a
about
gun
that. It's
shop.
kind of true. Like,
Those gun shop guys are judgmental as fuck.
yeah, it's
Dude,
super
it is
true.
It is. It's a weird thing, man.
I got
Like
I got the 5th degree in Alabama with you guys don't know Alex Shea. He's one of the big. He's the West Virginia State Director for GOA.
Okay.
We were at this the GSSF event in Alabama. Was down there all weekend. And we went in, and they sell is the government. They're not decommissioned, but they're government. I guess decommissioned is the right word. M1 Garands. They have a whole storeroom full of like all these old M1 Garands.
Yeah.
Tight.
We walked around in there together. We had been there all weekend. We had run of the facilities after hours. Like everyone there knew us. We knew that we were down there with GOA. Like everyone was very comfortable with us. We walked around in the gun store, and he actively talked with me about pick a gun out. I'm going to get you an M1 to say thanks for all the volunteer work you've done for GOA this summer, right? The gun store lady listened to the entire conversation. When I walked over to the counter and was like, can I put a Post-it note on this one to mark it as mine? She almost threw us out of the store because it was a straw purchase, which is just, like, I guess, like in theory, sort of, but like you just listened to us say that he's going to gift me. Like you can't put your debit card in and like I'm still doing the background on it. Like what's the...
Yeah.
It was a weird, like we were able to like kind of massage that down, but even in that environment, like very good relationship with them. No one else in the gun store. We're buying a gun after hours. Like it's a very private situation.
But is it?
And they were still like,
yeah. But is it the store owner's fault that she was paranoid about the shoppers?
It's the ATF's fault.
Exactly.
They're terrified. They're terrified.
Yeah, you just got to start pulling those layers back and say who is making everybody so terrified.
And their
for somebody else
relationship
to
with
buy?
the federal government is like, because that's all they sell is decommissioned federal stuff. So
got it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just real quick, that harkens to if there are individuals classified by the federal government, felons, who can't own firearms, why are they allowed on the street?
Well,
Like if violent
if
criminals,
if you have the ability to restore your voting rights, you should have your ability to you're a human or you're not a human.
Right. Well, I mean, it's it's that question of if the government thinks you're a possible violent repeat offender.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to have a really hard time staying on the subject today, but what's your opinion then on like felons voting from prison? Because I think you should be able to, because in theory, if you had a political war within the U.S., you could imprison all of your political opponents, right? But if you allowed a system that let you vote from jail, it would be irrelevant. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
And in theory, a
that.
functional society should have a very minimal amount of people in jail, so it shouldn't be
knee-jerk reaction. I would say I like the idea, but
right.
I want to think
But
about
it also opens the door for like you could arrest all of the shitty people, and then they vote for a political candidate that then makes their shitty stuff legal, and then you know what I mean?
Right.
So like,
wow,
nuance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
You know, there's a big argument in the States right now to give felons their voting rights back. And like I don't intrinsically disagree with that. The whole concept of prison, it's not really what happens, but the concept is rehabilitation.
Right.
It's not what we do.
Of course not.
That's a whole different, we could talk about recidivism rates for a long time. If you go to jail, like if you go into juvie between 13 and 14 years old, this is not a made up statistic, like 94% or something. It's like this overwhelming into the 90s% that you will be a convicted lifelong felon by the time you're 25.
Yeah.
If you go into the system as a kid, we don't rehabilitate anybody. You're just in adult prison with kids. It's all the same rules.
Yeah.
You know, that's terrible.
It is.
We're failing. We're just failing. Anyways.
It should be like
not the point of
fucking straight Harvard. Like you should be encouraged to break the law so that
if
you
you're-
could get in there and like
If you're
really
14
educate
and
yourself.
you committed grand larceny or some other like what happened in your life that at that early of an age you're committing like a capital offense of some sort to put you into, because you don't just end up in juvie. Like it's a significant thing to put you in an actual like children's prison, you know?
Yeah, it's
what happened in your life at that early of an age? Why we should be worried about you.
That's why parenting is so fucking important.
Oh, personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility. It's
great.
That's why it comes down to like being a good mother and being a good father to your children. That's where it all fucking starts. You want to save the world, go home and love your family.
Setting a good
that,
example.
That's that quote from Mother Teresa that was like just absolutely hit me like a ton of bricks when I first heard it, because that is it's the truth.
Okay.
Like, that's where it boils down to.
Who are we taking swings at? Because the NRA is
so I took a swing at myself initially. So I'm taking accountability of the way that I used to operate, and hopefully, if we all get kind of aware of who is saying the things and when they said them, that these people will come through, and if they're questioned about it at some point in time, and take accountability for it. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yeah, that was food. Food is being delivered. I'm going to give you guys the floor here in a minute because I'm going to eat on the podcast.
God damn it.
I'm starving. I know.
The worst part is you're just going to do it in front of me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so hungry right now.
I know. It's
We
fine.
were
You can have.
here.
I'll give you a crouton.
Shows up late and then orders the lunch.
So I think we can all agree that the NRA has dropped the ball in multiple.
Oh, just
The NRA never had the ball. That's the correct argument. They never had the ball. They never had any intentions of having the ball.
Yeah, wasn't the history of the NRA like
Oh,
even
well, no one has it on
from
his-
its inception?
so I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was yeah.
Okay.
He's got the facts. We'll go with
So for those of you that are putting your money into the NRA currently,
stop.
Because
stop.
there are so many other places for you to send your funds. And here's why. Go ahead, Nolan.
So the National Rifle Association, or the NRA, was established in 1871 by two former Union Army officers, William Conant Church and George Wood Wingate. In New York, the primary motivation for funding the NRA was to improve marksmanship among civilians, particularly after observing the relatively poor shooting skills of many Union soldiers during the war.
Can I do the translation? Yes. Okay.
Take
so
the floor, buddy.
translation: the federal government oversteps its bounds, supersedes states' rights, starts a civil war with all of the states that had left. That's the cause of the Civil War. It's unarguable. It is what it is. That's why the Emancipation Proclamation happened at the end of the war and not the beginning of the war. If the war was fought over slavery, then they would have freed the slaves and then had a war, not had a war, then freed the slaves. But moving on, the North at the end of the conflict realized that the Southern states spent more time hunting and being outdoorsmen, and they realized that should we ever have a conflict like this again, the men in the North were just not as good riflemen or outdoorsmen as the men of the South. And they knew that if they ever had a civilian uprising again, they wanted to have some sort of system to make sure that the Northern, the more city-based gentleman, was able to fight like a fighter. So they established the National Rifle Association, as well as the GSSF, which would follow later in time after World War II, which was to accomplish the same thing, to make sure that people that lived within cities that had a very specific political opinion had the ability to fight for the federal government. They were ensuring that they had a fighting force, and they stood up the Boy Scouts to ensure that the fighting force had some sort of basic outdoorsman skills also. So from the inception, the National Rifle Association was never arguing for our rights against the government. They have always been a wing of the government from the beginning. They never had the ball. They never wanted the ball. Their intent was never to defend firearms rights, ever, for anything. And for $25 a year, you can join Gun Owners of America, and they take politicians to court, not dinner.
Ooh, what a fucking
It's the best line ever,
That's
dude.
so good, dude. That's
I came
so
up.
good.
I'm claiming this. I said it in Milwaukee. I claimed it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
I said it all day, dude.
Do
We
you get a
signed
penny
it.
every
Dude,
time you say
we broke a record in Milwaukee. The 2 days that I was out in Milwaukee with GOA last summer, we like crushed it. We signed up more people in those 2 days than like
That's
I don't know
gangster.
exactly what the record was, but
That's awesome.
yeah.
So yeah, the NRA is one of those, like Tackett said, never had the ball, but it is the I'm pro 2A bud. It puts on this facade that it is for fighting for your rights to secure your right to own and maintain firearms, to bear them against the federal government.
Except the federal government established it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
so that's why they've been so lenient, I guess is a
yeah,
word.
they compromise on everything. They don't.
That's why when you're like, well, why is the NRA being? Because they're not here for that.
Yeah.
They weren't established for that.
And if you can look at the populace, like you have the NRA established, and over time, there's a lot more firearms restrictions that get introduced by the federal government, and there's this entity out there that's able to market itself all of a sudden as like, oh no, we're not here to teach you how to be a soldier. We're here to defend your gun rights.
Right.
But everyone leading it, they're within the DC bubble. That's why, again,
Just former Union commanders.
Yeah,
no big deal.
just to like yell for GOA again. GOA intentionally has their headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia, outside of the Beltway, so that they are not a part of the DC bubble. They're close, but they're not in it.
Right. Do you have anything you would like to add to that?
No, I mean, that
Okay.
was, well, I have something that I'd like to add that the NRA is like, I just want to give an example because people that are listening are probably like, well, give an example of how the NRA.
Bump
And
stocks.
so here's something, exactly. That's the exact example. In 2018, they supported the bump stock ban.
Yeah.
A piece of plastic.
Which for all of the forever Trumpers and people like, if you like, you have to be able.
Hold on, we're getting there. So
Are we addressing him
So
specifically?
what's interesting is, the NRA acts like politicians too. They embezzle
Yeah.
your money and buy yachts.
Right. Yeah.
Buy yachts,
That's my thing. Like, you donate to the NRA, and the NRA takes your money, and they like swoon politicians and take them to dinner and hope that they do the right thing. The GOA just takes your money and takes them right to fucking court. It's just a fuck
Same
you
with
right from the
NAGR.
gate. Yeah, exactly. Firearms Policy Coalition, they're
FPC.
awesome also.
Yeah.
Like,
You want to know something really funny? When I was putting together this this notes sheet that I have in front of me right now, I was typing out the NRA portion of it and putting it in the document. And as I was doing that, the NRA called me.
Hell yeah.
Weird.
Dude.
It literally popped up on my phone. Like
had a
the
bread at
NRA
work.
was calling. It popped up as NRA on my phone. I was like,
Interesting.
Well, they are a part of the federal government.
Maybe they see what I'm doing on my computer.
Oh.
They're like, hey, wait.
Company.
This guy's just
Yeah, who owns the NRA?
So they supported the 2018 bump stock ban. They also had a role. They also had a role in the Manchin-Toomey bill in 2013, 2015 for which sought to expand the background checks.
Yeah.
So,
which again is
so
a
they were
misnomer.
a part of that.
You can't buy a gun anywhere in any 50 states without doing a background check. Anytime you're watching the news and they talk about background checks, it's very easy to be like, yeah, we should have a background check. We do. We already do. You can't buy guns without a background check. It's
it's
just
the
not
gun show
not a
loophole,
thing.
though, bro.
Which is,
Talk about the gun show loophole.
if you close the gun show loophole, you close the ability for me to give my daughter a gun.
Yeah,
Like
that's what they're.
it just is what it is. Side note, you were talking at the beginning of this, you're talking about how like once you're in the 2A space, like working in the 2A space, you see kind of behind the veil more.
Yeah.
During the pistol brace conundrum of 2021, whenever that went through, one of the things that the ATF did that was really sly that got reversed, if you went on their Q&A section on the website, just the questions and answers, like on the like About Us page or whatever, there was a question on there that said, if I'm at the range and I'm a legal possessor of an NFA item and I give that NFA item to a person at the range, a friend, a family member, whatever, are they allowed to utilize that item in my presence? Right? That's a key part of this, in my presence. So me and you are at the range and I take my short-barreled rifle, suppressor, whatever.
Hand it to me.
And hand it to you.
Yes.
Is that legal? The ATF, during all of that conundrum, went in and they just changed the answer to no. They just deleted the answer and put no. What that meant, though, when they changed that Q&A to no, was it immediately applied constructive intent into everything in the NFA space. So constructive intent, as defined by the ATF, means access to the item and working knowledge of the item. So if you can physically see or grab the suppressor and you know how the suppressor works or how it goes on the gun, that's your working knowledge, right? So when they just put 2 fucking letters on their website, it meant that me, as an NFA Class 3 retailer selling suppressors, when you walked through the front door, everybody in the building was a felon because the suppressor on the wall and you walking through the door made you have constructive intent because you could get the suppressor and you knew how it worked. It meant everyone that worked in the store had constructive intent. Like everybody was a felon all of a sudden everywhere.
Intent laws are pre-crime and minority report
and the ATF was able to just across the board blanket everybody with an NFA. It literally means like when you leave to go to work and you leave your suppressor in a gun safe at home, your wife is now in violation of the NFA. Like, and all it took for the ATF to do that was change an answer on a website.
Right.
The amount of felonies that they could have thrown down after that, you wouldn't be able to give your own child your gun on the range anymore. You know, and there's no legislation behind that. There's no official letter. It was literally changing a Q&A. Like it's that kind of shit. The average person has no idea. The ATF they can just go on their website and just type 2 letters and everybody's a felon all of a sudden.
Yeah, there was no congressional legislation.
There was nothing.
There were no constituents of the representatives in their House of Representatives that were like, yeah, you know what, we need that. Yeah. No, it was
selling NFA items completely illegal.
Do you know how close? Speaking of the NFA, do you know how close the standard pistol was to being an NFA item?
Yeah. So they wanted a $5 revolver. They wanted to put a $250 tax stamp on a $5 revolver.
Yeah.
It's wild.
They had that in there before they took it out.
The entire NFA is when you go back and you read the congressional, like the committee that they had, like you can go online and pull the T-Rex Arms actually has a great video where they talk about the establishment of the NFA, and in the like notes, the bio part of that video, he links the congressional transcripts, all of the arguments that Congress had in 1934 about the NFA.
Yeah.
When you read that, you see the extremes that exist in our politics because of that. They wanted to put that stamp on everything.
Yeah.
The $200 tax stamp was the same cost as a new car, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like we talk about $200 now, it seems like no big deal. At the time, that was a house, you know what I mean? Like it was legit. A new high-end luxury car was $200. So that tax stamp was in an effort to make sure that no one could buy guns. And they sold that to the American public by saying that there was 500,000 armed violent criminals roaming around the country, right? But then in the transcript themselves, they say inside of Congress when they're talking about it, they say, well, there isn't that many people that actually buy this stuff every year, so it won't affect that many voters. So like it's the exact same argument
Make
that gets
sense.
Yeah, it's the exact same argument that gets made now, where they like kind of we were talking about the other episode where it's like they mock how useless an AR-15 is because they know it's not really that many people. It's a couple million people that really care about this. So they mock it. It's not that important. But then they sell it to everyone else as this is the greatest, clearest threat to your personal safety ever. Is all these armed criminals with AR-15s.
Yep.
They haven't changed the argument in 100 years.
No.
And we're just as an American populace, we're just
Turn off your AC during the summer because we don't have the grid to support it. But everybody needs to switch to electric vehicles.
right. It's Nancy Pelosi giving a speech on her Instagram about how we're going to get rid of gas stoves in front of her gas stove.
It is
Just like
it boils down to
that video. made me
all
so
politicians are vapid and soulless, and they just will say anything.
And the fucking founding fathers knew this. That's why we built a system that would give them this little area to go play in, but they didn't really have any control over it.
Yeah.
That was the fucking point.
Yep.
Hey, we know there's a bunch of narcissistic sociopaths in our society. Let's give them a daycare to go to every day. That was what the federal government was supposed to be.
Yeah.
It was never supposed to be able to look at me and you and be like, we don't like that. Like we were supposed to go like, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah. You're here just for overall, I don't know, to be a figure, just so we can have.
We have to have a figurehead.
We have to have a figurehead. Well, there has to be a semblance of organization because you can't have like a billion people roaming around going, well, no, I want this, but I want that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to have a representative, which we do, like supposedly. We have to have a representative go to a place where all the representatives can go to and say, hey, the people that I represent want this, but the people that I represent want that.
Yeah.
That is the foundation.
And states' rights were supposed to supersede federal government once, and the Civil War was the thing that changed that dynamic.
Exactly.
And we can't ever address that like such a fundamental change to our system happened during the Civil War, and we can't address it because like, oh, you're racist. Like, I'm not racist to say the Civil War changed state and federal government relation to each other.
Right.
It did. It turned us from a republic to a democracy.
Yep.
You know?
It did.
Anyways, that's the
changed
NRA.
Everything.
Oh man, I'm trying so hard to stay on subject.
Yeah. I already talked about Joe Manchin and Pat Toomey. Joe Manchin is, if you don't know who that dude is he is probably the most like moderate liberal that the
super important during COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he put his finger in the dam as far as authoritarian takeovers during.
He's
COVID.
the most conservative liberal that I think the country has right now. He's a West Virginia senator. He used to be the governor.
Wanted him to run for president. They wanted to put him up against Biden this year, and he was like, "No, I'm good."
No.
But I would have supported that. I might have even voted for him.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The dude, he's very much a middle of the road type of cat.
I just ruffled some feathers.
Yeah, I
might have voted for Manchin over Trump.
What?
Someone was just like,
with the fucking table.
To be a representative, to be a senator in the state of West Virginia, you kind of have to be moderate. Right?
Yeah.
If you're,
Oh man, I was about to go down some whole COVID thing in West Virginia.
Dick's
Sporting
Cox
Goods.
Sporting Goods. What do you think about Cox Sporting Goods?
I'll say my quick piece, and then I'll stop talking to Mike so much. So where I lived in Virginia, there was a Dick's and a Gander Mountain because they're the same company, right? They all are. They have like a split store, you know, like one door says Dick's and the other one says Gander Mountain, but you go to the same registers, you know?
Yeah.
When Dick's did that, I remember finding it super comical because they just moved the firearms from the Dick's side of the store to the Gander Mountain side of the store. It didn't. So like when they came out and they were like, at Dick's, we draw a hard line in the sand. It's not even your brother. It's literally you just being like, we don't sell these anymore.
Yeah. So let me tell everybody what Dick's did. They announced in 2018 that they were no longer going to sell assault style rifles anymore. That was the premise of what. Yep.
Yeah,
and they instated their own minimum age to purchase a firearm of 21.
Yeah.
So they said you had to be 21 years old, and you had to.
They just took all of that stock and shifted it,
moved
to
it
Gander
over
Mountain,
to the
and then Gander Mountain continued to sell it. So they were, as a corporate entity, they were able to make one side of the political aisle happy and the other side of the political aisle happy,
and still make their money.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of bullshit.
Who are the shareholders in Dick's Sporting Goods? The Stack family, Vanguard, BlackRock, Fidelity, State Street. Cool.
Is there anything? Is there anything?
I just wanted to
I
put
wish I know that the NRA. I understand how.
What was the other one that we looked up that pissed us off about SHOT Show? Was that the NSSF?
Yeah.
Where they were, that was a foundation that was ran by ultimately the
No, the NSSF is the board of directors. Weren't you were saying that
Yeah.
the board of directors is people from these companies like Smith and Wesson and Olin.
Yeah. They were. Oh yeah, it was the board
is
of
like
directors from all the companies that were
they're
having the
already
strings pulled
corrupted.
by BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. So,
I wish that the NRA wasn't like. I wish the NRA had was like a publicly traded entity.
Oh, I'm sure if we looked into the 75 board members, I'm
probably
sure
not
we
good.
could
It's
find
probably
some
not good.
correlation somewhere.
I know.
It's probably not good.
And I'm sure it would not be surprising.
I mean,
if they are all owned by BlackRock.
When you're like spokesperson entities, like anytime there's federal government or politicians, anything like that, that they use like celebrities as their spokesperson, you should immediately be like wary of that.
Yeah.
You know, like Trump comes out and it's Trump.
Right.
Kamala Harris comes out and they got to fill the seats for her speeches, which she's not giving any speeches, but the pseudo political rally she's doing, it's a Megan Thee Stallion concert.
Yeah.
Followed by Kamala Harris on stage.
Well, let's not
there's, like,
get
all
too
these
carried
videos of,
away.
like,
I
people
mean,
leaving,
I think
like-
we've all seen Kid Rock and Hulk Hogan come up and take the
I had a point.
come up and stake the stage for
As long as
Donald
it's not
Trump.
Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
But that dude drives
Yeah,
into a
they
brick
both
wall.
suck. That's the point I'm getting at here, guys.
Yeah, we should
Both sides are garbage. Fuck. So let's move on to Timothy Kennedy.
No,
Oh, you want to keep going?
I've got some more.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. Tim Kennedy is going to be the money shot because
Is Trump not going to be the money shot?
well, Trump. Everybody knows that in 2018 he supported the ban of bump stocks.
Does everybody know?
Does everybody know that?
Does everybody know that?
Does everybody know
Because
that?
now everybody knows that.
He passed more anti-firearms legislation than Obama did in 8 years, in 4 years.
I know.
And we're talking about Trump and Obama.
I know, man.
And he was more anti-gun than Obama was.
It's a trip. He's on
Let the
record.
ATF run wild.
Yeah, uncomfortable truths.
Uncomfortable truths that we don't want to fucking admit. I mean, this is why, like, just so you guys know, every time we do a podcast, we get more unsubs from our podcast than we get subscribers.
Yeah.
It's because we say shit like this and people are like, oh, fuck that, dude, I love Trump. I'm like, we're just trying to give you like what's real. The reality of it is Trump imposed a ban on fucking bump stocks, but yet turns around and says that he supports the Second Amendment. You don't support the Second Amendment if you're implementing legislation against the Second Amendment. Period.
If you
Like-
if at any point you have been irritated or had your feathers ruffled at all by the pistol brace thing and the just mass confusion that 100 million Americans faced with being a felon overnight, if at any point that ruffled your feathers, the only way the ATF was able to do that was by leveraging Chevron deference in a more militant way. And that only exists because Trump and his legal team looked at the ATF and said, Chevron deference exists. You are the professionals. You are the experts. You make an expert decision that the bump stock has to go away. You write a letter and then it's gone. They put political pressure onto the ATF and used Chevron deference as their legal theory to allow the ATF to ban bump stocks. Once the ATF had that tool, they just went to town with it. And that's why the Supreme Court like throwing Chevron deference out is such an important thing, because it removes the ATF's ability to do bump stocks, the pistol brace bans, all of it, because the Chevron
You mean just overnight change their mind on things? And write law?
Right. Because Chevron deference, the fact that the Supreme Court got rid of the Chevron deference is one of the most influential things probably to happen in the last 100 years. And we just cannot talk about it at all, because the Chevron deference existence in our legal system meant that all of the political class that write legislation didn't have to know anything about what they were writing, and they didn't have to actually write a law. They could just write some kind of gray, arbitrary thing and then defer, Chevron deference, they could defer to the experts. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get COVID policy. That's how you get fucking all of it. All of the authoritarian deep state overreach is through Chevron deference. When the Supreme Court killed that, it's one of the most influential rulings in the last 50 years. And you're not going to hear about it on the news.
No.
Because if we're to address that it's gone now, then how is the ATF doing anything that they do?
Right.
They lost the ability to do all of it. The FDA has it's just all gone.
Yeah.
Because all the legislation around this stuff is intentional. The politicians don't want to. Do you think any elected official wants to draw a hard line on anything?
No.
Once they draw a hard line, they can't
get voters from both sides.
They can't squirt around on it. So all of the legislation since Chevron deference was put in is intentionally gray and open-ended.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't exist anymore. And now the ball is back on the politicians. Like, okay, so what is an assault weapon? And like they don't fucking know.
It's a weapon that's committed assault.
Yeah. And like they don't, you know what I mean? Like they have no idea. It's inconsistent legislation written by
Go ahead.
It's inconsistent legislation written by illiterate people.
Yeah.
They don't understand what they're legislating. So when they write the law, it just makes no.
One of my biggest questions on that is how can we have these senators and congressmen that go into Congress and people will bring up in their law that they're proposing and be like, did you know this was in here? And they're like, no, I didn't.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
So who wrote the law?
Right. Well, it's in the law. If you like, it's just absolutely kills me. This is a great interview on a documentary that I watched years ago, and I don't know what it was about. And this is the worst like reference to tell you to go watch something. But there's this great interview with a politician, like a senator, and he's sitting in his office, and they set one of the bills in front of him, and it's just this fucking huge stack. It's like 100,000 papers or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're like, so you read this, or do your aides read this? Like, how do you go through this? Right. And the guy just doesn't miss a beat. He sits back and chuckles, and he's like, nobody reads that. Nobody reads that. Like he's just like, because all that bill is like when it like the stimulus package that went through.
Yeah.
All of that stuff, when you start looking through it, there's 3 pages that cover whatever the name is. And then everything else is like money getting kicked back to donors and sponsors and people that put them in the office. And the other 50,000 pages is money laundering. Like,
listen, like, what was it? Like $1 billion got kicked out to the citizens. Well, trillions of dollars. Yeah. Remember, the difference between $1 billion and $1 trillion is roughly $1 trillion.
It is.
Explain to me the like 2008 like housing bubble burst, and then like we just paid out all the companies that created the problem. Our money fixed the problem. So I got not only did I lose my house and my ability to have a home and my ability to take care of my kids, but then you also increased my taxes to pay back the company that put me in this situation in the first fucking place.
Yeah,
like it
Looney Tunes.
Like if tomorrow Tacticon went under and you were like, "Hey, government, give me a bailout," they'd be like, "Nah, dude." But if fucking JP Morgan Chase goes down, they're like, "Oh, they are too big to fail."
Like it's like if Tacticon Armament,
or
if
even
you
like
if
Best
you were
Western,
like
they're too big to fail. It's fucking hotel.
Yeah. It's like if you were like, oh man, like we're one bad month away from Chapter 11, so you just got all the employees to like strong arm all the local businesses to get enough money to keep you from going bankrupt. That's what happened.
Yeah,
the federal government using your tax money. When they take your tax money, they are taking it at the point of a gun. You might not feel like it is, but don't pay your taxes for 10 years and see how fucking fast you're looking down the barrel of a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
So like it's all just a protection racket. Their friends blew their own businesses up and went, oh, fuck, dude. And the federal government was like, dude, don't worry about it. I got it. And the Jump Out Boys shook a bunch of businesses down. Like that's... There's no difference between me and Nolan going next door and robbing a gas station to fix your company. It's the exact same thing.
It's the exact same thing. Yeah,
it literally is the exact
taxes
same thing.
Make me so mad.
I know.
Like we need to do a whole podcast.
I know.
On taxes.
They infuriate me.
We'll do a podcast on. I think that's a great idea.
All taxation is theft.
I want to put this out here. There is the necessity, I believe, for the boys in blue, as well as the military. But let's not forget that they are a unit of the federal government to enforce law.
Yeah, we had a great talk about that off camera this morning.
That'll be our tax talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Let's not. That'll be the next. Yeah. That'll be the next podcast.
All taxation is theft.
Tax talk.
Tax talk.
A couple more here.
Tax talk with Tackett on
before we dive in. Black Rifle Coffee Company. We all are aware of what happened when old boy from Kenosha showed up wearing a BRCC t-shirt. Remember, he was on the news, showed up wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company t-shirt, Kyle Rittenhouse, and BRCC publicly distanced themselves from them and said, "Hey, we've got nothing to do with this guy. We do not endorse him. He was just wearing our t-shirt. Just wanted to let everybody know."
Yeah, people like companies.
Yeah.
Especially when you put on a cool exterior, like, look.
I didn't. Yep. I honestly though, like, I'm like the oddball out on this, but like, I thought that BRCC. I think that they have gotten a lot of flack that they don't deserve, and I think that's one of them.
What?
Like, we were looking at the rifle.
You don't think they deserve flack for distancing themselves from somebody who protected himself with a firearm?
I'm saying as a corporate entity, they're looking at Kyle Rittenhouse, and when he was on the news with that shirt, nothing was decided through court. All of the public opinion, their opinion, everybody's opinion was based off of like internet clipped videos that you were seeing on your social media feed. Like there hadn't been an actual judicial process
Exactly.
to say what the truth of the matter was. So for them to be like, listen, we didn't sponsor Kyle Rittenhouse.
Right. We're
not paying Kyle Rittenhouse. We're not paying his legal fee. Like I can understand them being like,
their exact words were, "We do not support legal advocacy efforts." Like that was their quote. Like,
wait. Oh yeah, so they were saying like we're not paying his legal fund.
You're right on that. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
As a corporate entity, I get it. I understand. Like they're just like, hey, we don't have the facts. We're not gonna hook our boat to this anchor. We don't really know what this anchor is yet.
Got it.
On a personal level,
well,
how much you saw the video where a dude hits him in the back of the fucking head with a skateboard. He goes to the ground, handles business in a more professional way than the average cop could.
Listen,
right now,
So like,
don't you think it's fair?
like it pissed me off.
But don't you think it's fair to say that many of us who, I mean, there was a video, right? Yes, the judicial process
like, 2 shots.
The entire thing hadn't been adjudicated.
Yeah.
And so because it hadn't been adjudicated, I can understand your sentiment that,
I get it
well,
from, like,
maybe there were
Dan's
some
point of view.
other things that came into play, but the prosecution had like one of their main anchor points for the prosecution was that, well, he crossed state lines, and was he allowed to do that and all that other stuff like that.
States.
Yeah. So, but my thought is, even if he had been found guilty because he had illegally crossed state lines and he shouldn't have had the gun in the first place.
I don't think any of that was true, though. I think, but
well, no. Everything worked out in his favor, obviously, because we all know the result of that. But what I'm saying is, did he have a right to defend himself in that situation, even if the gun wasn't his, even if he shouldn't have had it, even if he wasn't old enough, even if he crossed state lines? The answer to me is unequivocally yes.
Yeah.
Because you have a right to fucking protect yourself.
I feel like the right answer there would have been to come out and say like, hey, we as a corporate entity, as a company, we're not covering his legal expenses. We have sent him no money. We did not provide that t-shirt. We are not sponsoring Kyle Rittenhouse in any way. However, that being said, you as an American have a right to defend yourself. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
There just needed to be a but at the end of their like statement. But I get like if you were to go to Dan and be like, hey, I think that there's canted iron sights on a rifle that's in the news right now that we made.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, no, I'm literally
I don't want to wade into this on camera, but no,
I'll wade into it on camera. People buy because Tacticon equipment.
So
because our the
I'm
products
gonna let Nolan do it.
the products that we manufacture are affordable.
Yeah.
This is
a hot rifle.
They end up in a
hot rifle.
They end up in the hood.
Hot rifle.
So
What are you talking about right now?
So-
Is there something that
yeah,
hot.
I'm just gonna lay the groundwork for this.
okay?
It's the same idea as Daniel Defense getting flack for a shooter taking in and shooting up a school.
Yeah.
It's a tool. Just as if somebody were to take a fiberware kitchen knife and go out and slash a bunch of people. It is not the business's fault for supplying a product. There are plenty of people that are beaten to death with hammers. We don't go after craftsmen because of disgruntled marriages.
It's not Ford's fault
Right.
because a middle-aged dad killed a family of 4 drunk driving, right?
Exactly.
It's not Ford's.
It's not Ford's fault because they couldn't see down the road of selling a fucking 3-ton death machine traveling at 95
But they could put a
miles an hour.
breathalyzer thing in there and then no one could drink and drive ever again. Why don't we
Right,
do
it's-
that shit?
Well, they could put a limiter in there that doesn't allow you to drive past 10 miles an hour, but that's not freedom or dangerous fucking freedom. So,
It's true.
so the individual that took a shot at DJT, Donald J. Trump,
Okay.
had a arrow rifle, I think it was, or arrow upper.
Okay.
And
Did that guy have? Wait.
he had it looks like our canted sights.
It looks very much like
It looks
the
very
canted
much
sights.
like our canted.
That guy that took a shot at Donald
Crooks,
Trump
yeah.
had.
It looks like it. From
Had
the
our-
photo.
Yeah.
He's got our
they're
iron
dead
sights on him.
45-degree iron sights.
Oh shit!
My only
But
thing
they
is,
also had a Hull sun on there.
yeah.
And he also had Magpul furniture.
I call that the Kardashian effect. That's free fucking marketing, in my opinion.
But
it's a very inline situation. Like someone could come out and be like, "Well, Tacticon provided the iron sights," and
Yeah,
the way you
exactly.
answer that is like, "Hey, I don't sponsor that guy or his activity, but I believe that America." You know what I mean? Like,
I understand where you're coming from now. I get it. All right.
yeah, because I just get it.
Totally,
Like, if you
totally understood.
if
Yep.
you go to Dan today and you're like, "Listen, Dan."
Dan, by the way, is our CFO.
Yeah, if you go to Dan and you're like, "Listen, the guy that took a shot at Trump was using our stuff." Dan is gonna be like, "Oh, please, like distance." Like his immediate thought, like as the controller, is gonna be like, we need a distance. We got a distance. We need a PR spin. Like you know what I mean? Like I get it from the corporate. I get it.
Got it. Yeah.
That's my issue with the gun industry as a whole is like, we have to remove the corporatism.
Do you sue McDonald's for making advertisements leading to overwhelming heart disease in the United States?
You have to stop doing this to me. Do you know why they used to say all beef patties in the McDonald's commercials? Everybody remembers the Big Mac jingle, right? Two all beef patties, special sauce. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The company that made the patties
was
named
named
all beef.
Yep.
So it's two all beef patties.
Even though it's not.
Right. That's why
all
they're not
beef.
hamburgers. They're Big Macs because you can't say it's a hamburger.
If it's
At the time that those commercials were made and the company All Beef made the patties, a McDonald's hamburger patty included 30% of the patty was edible plastic. The FDA and McDonald's allowed that to happen, and they sold you medical grade edible. I don't even know what the fuck is edible plastic. And now we're all confused. Like, how did plastic get into my DNA? Like, fucking McDonald's and All Beef.
Wild guess.
That I remember learning that like as a young guy and thinking like, I don't
I've
trust
heard that
anything.
before, and I completely forgot.
Two all
that.
beef
Yep,
patty special
all
sauce.
beef. Yeah, what a clever way.
It's
to-
genius.
Yeah,
It's genius.
Should we just call our because we just started manufacturing rifles? So should we call them? Should we just call the company Airsoft?
Beef.
Yeah, all beef.
Just call them
Airsoft.
Airsoft. Like, dude, it's airsoft.
It's an airsoft.
These are
It's not a
airsoft
rifle.
airsoft
It's airsoft. It's you see where I'm going with
Big
this?
fucking brain.
Big
dude.
brain, dude.
No, that's an airsoft rifle.
That's an airsoft.
bread. It worked.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
God, you just get into calling things other things. Yeah.
It's airsoft, dude.
We don't sell rifles.
it's
We
a
sell banana bread.
It's you have a knife company called Plastic. It's a plastic knife.
It's a plastic knife. That's
I mean,
fucking
that's
great.
essentially what's the G10, G80? What's the company that sells those? They have like the best marketing ever. It's like they sell the knives in
Yeah.
old school VHS boxes.
Oh,
can't remember their company.
I don't know.
But it's like all of their marketing is like reminding you that these things are not legally allowed to go through the TSA screening. That's their marketing.
Okay.
It's reminding you cannot legally use this through TSA. And it's just constantly being like, this shit will go right through TSA.
You know what's funny about TSA? I had a TSA agent one time. Like I had body armor. I was taking it to
this is
some other. I was taking it to some other state, and I'm like,
We were going to Nevada. We were going to SHOT Show.
we were going to SHOT Show, and I had body armor with me because I was gonna, I don't know, like display the body armor either at SHOT Show or show somebody. And I'm going through TSA, and I'm cleared because I'm going through TSA.
Oh, you have the pre-check?
I got the
You're
pre-check.
so fucking fancy,
Yeah,
Jake. You
I
have
know.
pre-check.
I know.
He flies in the front of the plane, too, doesn't he?
No. But
Put me in the back.
I roll through pre-check so that I don't have to get fucking molested through the regular part of it, right? So I go through pre-check, they see the thing. I'm already vetted. They already know who I am. They know I'm a veteran. They know I'm an American citizen. They know all these things about me. I get through, and they're like,
Almost.
I almost get through, and they're like, body armor. I don't know. I got to go get my. I gotta go get my manager.
Picturing it like in your carry-on.
So they called it. It is. It's on my carry-on. That's what I'm saying. It's I've got body armor on my carry-on. Yeah.
That's why you freaked him out.
Hold on.
I freaked him out
Hold
saying
on.
that's
Hold
a
on.
shotgun mic.
So they said, "What is this?" And I said, "That's body armor." And they were like, "Why do you have body armor?" I said, "Because I make it." And they were like, "Okay, hold on, I got to get my supervisor." And she comes over and she's like, "Yeah, what's he gonna do with body?" Yeah, and then she looked at me and she goes, "We allow 7-inch screwdrivers.
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember you
We
telling me
allow
that.
7-inch screwdrivers to come through in the TSA. So there's no reason I
in your
wouldn't."
carry-on.
There's in your carry-on.
Now,
In
hold
your
on.
carry. So there's no reason I wouldn't let you through
7-inch
with this.
screwdriver.
Meanwhile,
Hold on. This is
meanwhile, just two rows over, Nolan.
I have made it through TSA with the same amount of body armor, not pre-check, and I had a stripper clip.
He had a stripper
fucking
clip.
357 mag in my backpack,
He had a stripper clip of 357 fucking mag.
and he's like,
in his backpack.
And that TSA guy was like, I didn't see that.
he pulls it over for inspection. I'm like, it's gonna be body armor like Jake, and he goes, and I go, oh, that shouldn't be in there. He's like,
They just put it in the lost
he's
and
like, what
found
do you want
jug
me
and
to,
like,
he looked at me. He's like, what do you want me to do with it? And I was like, can I keep it? He's all, no. I'm like, throw it away. He's like, okay.
he just wanted you to, have you ever looked in the containers? I remember doing, because you have to do TSA when you come out of Afghanistan and Iraq, which
Yeah.
just used to blow my fucking, like I'm standing in the TSA thing with a machine gun in my hands, but like you're going through my bag for pocket knives.
Yeah.
They took an auto opening Benchmade from me, right?
Bench.
I had bought it, had it mailed to Germany, flown it into Afghanistan, but then trying to leave a combat zone. The National Guard in uniform, American citizen service member was like, you can't fly with this. I'm holding a machine gun, bro. And so he takes my Benchmade knife and he puts it in the little, it's like a peanut clear container of confiscated stuff. Every knife in that thing was just nice ass knives. To this day, I'm convinced that they were just like, I don't like the shit out of that thing.
Yeah,
like, you can't have this.
Keep this. Yeah, you can't have this.
And there's no argument because there was some other dude that had put 4 hand grenades in a protein thing. So
I get it. Maybe you can't fly with that. You know, everybody on the plane could be killed.
Bitch.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it was interesting. Like the pre-check, they like called I got to call in the supervisor and do all these things. Meanwhile, Nolan's just standing in there waiting for me to get done. What was the problem? I was like, I had armor. He's like, so did I, and I had ammunition. It didn't stop me. I don't know. I was like, maybe it's the tattoos. I don't fucking know, dude. You know.
Because I wore a smile on my face.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I was being
Let
a
him
dick.
touch my
he was
crotch.
on the phone and like busy. I can see it. I can see it.
Acted like you didn't have time for him.
Yeah.
Did you ask him how their day was?
Yeah, you didn't overinflate their sense of entitlement.
I was like, wow, you guys are really great for our safety. You've never failed any audit ever.
I can't go through TSA with a pocket knife, right? But like in Charlottesville, as soon as I walk through TSA, I can immediately around the corner and go to a restaurant that I can pick up a steak knife.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just makes TSA accomplishes nothing. And then if I can pick a knife up at the restaurant inside the airport,
you can.
Like, what?
Yeah, I've done it.
I mean?
You could literally grab a knife and then take that onto the.
It is Sakura Theater.
It is.
It make the slow feel good.
Yeah. I've never taken a steak knife to fly with, just in case there's a jump up with your box cutter.
I fly consistently with 7-inch screwdrivers.
What you could
just
do,
in case I need to tighten a bolt.
How small
could just
can
take
that
a-
flathead be?
you can just take a piece of you could just take a piece of metal and a knife sharpener with you, and then while you're waiting for your flight,
Just in the airport?
while you're waiting,
It's a 7-inch screwdriver and you're just putting an edge on it?
you're just putting an edge on.
I'm sure you could just fly with like a block of metal.
You just fly with my hand. You know what I mean? Like, it's like at some point, like if you want to do harm, you're going to do harm.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what would a MacBook do? You know? Like if I was just holding on to a MacBook, like how many shots can I take before that thing breaks? Like probably a bunch.
I like have you guys seen the TSA liquid containers?
Yes.
Like where you pour out? It's like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I'll just pour out my bleach and chlorine here in the public space. I almost forgot that was in my bag.
It's how do you know what's in my tiny little shampoo? It's all like the second that you like take a second to look at it, you realize it's not accomplishing anything but slowing your day down. Like
That's all it is.
And the only people they've ever caught was like the guy that made it through TSA that was trying to light his fucking tennis shoe on fire in the plane. You remember that shit? It was like right after 9/11. He had bombs in his tennis shoes.
Yeah.
And the TSA was like, look, we caught him. Like, he was on the plane.
He was on the plane.
I was leaving Hawaii and we had some groceries left over from our B&B that we were staying at. And my wife was like, I'm bringing those. Those are good groceries.
The fuck you are.
And I was like, all right, she stuffed an entire thing of fucking bread in her backpack.
Oh, fuck no.
And peanut butter.
Nope.
They took my fucking peanut butter. And
Yep.
it was open.
I love when you're in the air, like flying through Dulles and stuff, like the big international ones. There is always someone's like Romanian great grandmother who has like a bag of turnips. And it's like being explained to her, like, you can't bring this into the, and she's like, these are my turnips, you know? Like,
And it was good peanut butter. It was the Justin's peanut butter.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, sorry, you can't fly with this. And I was like,
can I eat it all right
I
now?
looked at him. I was like, you just want my peanut butter, don't you?
You just grab it back from him, like,
But what you should have done is called it like a book. You'd be like, that's not peanut butter.
It's a book.
It's a book. You just label it a book, so it doesn't say peanut butter on there
and
anymore.
then read it.
Like it's a
Open the
book.
cap
It
and
says
be
it's
like-
a book. It's 2 all beef patties. It's a book. It says it on the jar.
That's not a jar of peanut butter.
It's a book.
It's a jar of books.
It's a jar of books.
Do you know how many mushrooms I put into that peanut butter? Like, it's really expensive peanut butter, bro. Moving directly on.
Moving
How did
directly on.
TSA even
Shut
get
up.
into this?
Digging in a little bit deeper.
Dicking in.
Digging
in
in
with the
a
peanut butter
little
a little
bit deeper. There was a time where Colleen Noir faced a little bit of criticism after he expressed support for certain gun control measures as well, such as background checks and mental health evaluations during interviews.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, we all know the dude is very much
litigious.
very, very much in my opinion, a two-way proponent. But we've all, I can't say all of us, but even guys like him, who, if you watch any of his footage, he's
incredibly pro two-way.
Incredibly pro two-way, but has said a thing or two in the past. Whereas, like,
Well, and what was the rest of what he had to,
Yeah, exactly. So, but overall, overarching 99.999% of like what the dude has done has been good for the two-way, and he's most certainly been a voice for it. But what I'm trying to say here is some of these really suck. Some of them don't.
Yeah.
Some people have just, maybe had a thought on camera that's like, well, yeah, I mean, like, maybe we should have more background checks.
Yeah,
Maybe
we've
like
never
something
had a
like
shitty thought on camera.
right. And so the point that I'm trying to make here by bringing up Colleen Noir is that, like, I'm not here blasting him for whatever he said about it, but there's people like the NRA who are inherently not two-way pro institutions. And then there's guys like maybe Colleen Noir or Hickok 45. Hickok 45 was another one who has said something about background checks. I think Hickok's was, I think it was about, let's see if I have my notes here, about bump stocks. Where is he?
He was also like anti-bump stock, right?
I believe he was
that's right.
He was anti-bump stock.
Yeah, maybe don't run to his page and yell at him about it. But that.
Don't go over there and like yell at him about it. But there's what we have to stop doing are things like that, and myself included, which are we all have to stand on the priority, and the priority meaning. The priority for the Second Amendment is that you should not take away my rights in any capacity.
Right.
We don't equivocate.
Shall not be infringed. It's
shall not be infringed. Not by us, not by anybody else.
Right.
They're already doing a good job themselves. The government's doing a really good job at that. We should not be falling into that. We should not be going, well, it kind of does make sense if you think about it, right? The more we do that, the worse it's going to get.
You used to be able to order a Thompson submachine gun, which was the greatest, hottest, nicest thing ever. It's like ordering an MP7 now.
Right.
You could order that through a JCPenney or
Sears catalog.
not JCPenney.
Sears.
Yeah, Sears catalog.
It'd
just be mailed to your house.
What it falls back to is
should be.
It should be.
In an ideal world, right? In an ideal society, in an ideal world where people have personal responsibility and there aren't a bunch of fucking extremists all over the place ruining everything for everyone and using certain matters, steps, and litigation to take away things that they don't believe is right. Because, like, let's look at this.
And before you finish your thought, and to include your thought, and the federal government wasn't so powerful.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's what I'm talking about
Yes.
with these individuals.
Yeah,
Like,
a lot of
you
this
don't
stuff
have
would
a-
be irrelevant.
You don't have a
Right.
federal government pushing their will down your throat, trying to turn you into a fucking tax slave.
Yep.
You would have a system where you could objectively, kind of look at it, and to Coleon's credit here, it's like realistically, if somebody went in and a background check, they check if you're crazy and killed people in the past.
Right.
That's not that bad of a thing. But unfortunately, we have a system in play and no personal fucking accountability, especially with these politicians who go, well, if we're going to have a background check, we should just get rid of the amount of ammunition you can have in a magazine.
Right.
Well, now we're just going to have to stop selling ammunition.
When it's the easy back end of it too, right? It makes good sense.
Oil the frog.
If you're gonna buy a gun, like I don't mind doing a background check when I buy my gun, right? Like we're a civilized society, like you know what I mean? But once you establish something like that, who is the authority on what will fail my background?
Yeah.
Right. We're all humans and we all suck.
Well, it's
So once
violent. It's violent. It's violent misdemeanors.
Right.
Well, what do
You're
you
giving
constitute
them
as
a time.
violent? Yeah. Is it a car crash that I got into accidentally that manslaughter was involved?
Or how about this? You're at a bar, some drunk dude walks up and grabs your girl's ass and you punched his fucking jaw out.
Yeah.
How about this? You're engaged in a relationship with someone who's not stable and they have you arrested.
There it is too.
The red flag laws, all of those things like down that road, like it's very easy for someone else to step into your life and cause catastrophic harm to your rights, your abilities, your freedoms.
Chaos.
And the only reason that they can is because a tool exists.
And that was another thing that Trump support it.
The issue
Trump
with the background
did
check, it's just a
support
tool.
red flag laws.
Yes.
Like he was on board.
Yes.
He was on board with
Yes.
I would like,
and those are heinous violations.
Those are heinous violations.
I would like to, like, as we were talking about, like using the word liberal correctly, I would also like to start saying administration.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Administration.
Right, the Trump administration.
Can we
Biden
hit red flag
administration.
laws like for?
Right.
Yep.
Can we hit red flag laws real quick?
Yeah.
Because it's another one of those, like, it sounds really good when you sit down and you're watching CNN to get your alternative point of view, which we should all be doing. Right?
I do that all the time. Yeah.
You sit down and watch CNN, and like Jake Tapper comes on. You know, I kind of respect Jake Tapper. He tends to toe the line that he's supposed to, but he seems to be well thought out. He'll push pressure back. My point being, CNN will come out and they'll make a good argument where, like, red flag laws sounds really good. We could have prevented this shooter because we knew that he had mental health issues, and if a system existed for us to be able to take his guns away, he wouldn't have had the ability to do this. And so you at home, you're like, yeah, mentally unstable people, there should be a way. And then you're able to sell it on the. Do you know how many companies have contacted me that want me to do commercials for veterans resources where they'll come and take the veterans' guns if you're concerned about the veteran? There's a ton of nonprofit organizations that exist specifically targeting veterans and taking their guns away from them in mental health stuff. They all bill themselves as being like a safe alternative to a red flag law, but who's the controlling authority of these things?
Yeah.
But my point being, you watch the red flag law coverage on CNN, and it makes a lot of good common sense. We could stop school shootings by just removing guns from mentally unhealthy people. 5150 law still exists. If you are concerned about someone's if you're concerned about someone's mental health, you can just put them on a 5150 hold using local law enforcement in your local district attorney or your magistrate's office. I can put you on a 5150 not knowing you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so there is already a system in place.
There is a system in place. There's something that a friend of mine who recently got a divorce, who is a very good father and just good human being in general, who his attorney referred to it as the silver bullet, because when she wasn't getting what she wanted, which was custody of the children, she decided, I'm just going to file a TRO, a temporary restraining order. And when that happened, he called me. He was like, well, I have a temporary restraining order against me. I can't see my children and I can't have my guns. And so he had to, I had to put him in touch with, at the time I didn't have the FFL, and I had to put him in touch with an FFL that would, take his guns from him.
That's like best case scenario for him, because if it's like a red flag law, like in New York, say you own, let's just say that you're like an avid gun collector and you own 50 guns, 100 guns.
Yep.
Every single one of those guns that goes into the law enforcement department that's going to hold them for you has a storage fee. So by the time your litigation is done and you have fought to prove your innocence, that's why red flag laws are so heinous, is because you're guilty. And
you can't afford
before the trial.
Before the trial.
Your punishment happens before the trial.
Yeah.
Once you're done arguing your innocence and you get found mentally good and you're allowed to get your guns back, the law enforcement department isn't going to give them back until you've paid your rental fee.
Right.
What is that rental fee? And now they have a whole new tool. So the red flag law took your guns. The court didn't hold the line and gave you your guns back. Now a single entity can again be like, oh no, the rental fee was $1,000 a day. And what prevents them from doing that?
Now you owe $150,000.
And the problem with the fact that you got punished before the litigation means it just took my accusation to remove your guns from you, to remove your ability to protect yourself. Like it's no part of our legal system works that way.
The way that the TROs work is that if you just go establish some sort of a case and you tell a judge, like, listen, I am scared for my life from this person. Why? Because of the things that he's said to me and the way that his demeanor around me and the threats that he's executed toward me. Then they need to investigate it, and while they investigate it, that individual gets a temporary restraining order.
You're guilty
before proven innocent.
I have a really hard time with some of like your restraining order stuff and how it affects your gun rights, because obviously this is my belief system with gun rights, but I also, like, having been a firefighter, is having a system like that where someone can go with very minimal evidence and get some layer of protection while it gets worked out, super important. Like, if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, especially women, they tend to get very stuck. So like temporary restraining orders, like there's a very net positive that they bring to society. There's just this one little dangerous use of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a red flag law just opens that door wide open. It's just red flag laws scare the shit out of me.
Yeah,
they scare the shit out of me, because it's just an accusation that you're a threat to public safety.
Yeah.
But what's fucking public safety?
And
that harpens back on the idea of the greater good, right?
Right.
Right. But then
Right.
again,
It just
who
means
is the
everyone
arbiter
that-
of the greater good.
Well, and you listen to the Biden administration come out and talk about like, oh, if you voted for Trump, you're a threat to democracy. Holy shit.
I know.
Like, holy shit. You could red flag wall 50% of the country.
You know who else is a threat to democracy? Like just actual terrorists that are trying to kill people. And that's what you're putting me in the same bucket as?
You know what? If it's a threat to democracy, my goddamn constitutional republic.
Right.
Yeah.
I should be a threat to democracy.
Correct.
I want to, like, oh, man.
That's the next T-shirt.
All the little
I am a
clips you
threat
could
to
take.
democracy. Or be a threat to democracy.
Can we just have a convertible?
Stop.
Can we just have a convertible?
Be a threat.
One thing that I wanted to allude to too, when you were talking about like, we look at people and they say, and we can think, I don't think that person should own a gun yet. Like there's no good reason for that person to own a gun, right? There's no really good reason for that individual to carry a firearm. But should we prevent them from doing it? Obviously, no. They have a right to. They have a right to defend themselves.
You should prevent them from hurting you.
It leads me back to this. There's this fucking hilarious. I don't know if anybody out there listens to Bill Burr. Bill Burr is one of my favorite comedians. He's fucking hilarious. He's talking about there's no good reason. He said, well, the thing that trips me out is what they say. There's no good reason to hit a woman. And he's like,
I love that. Yeah.
are you fucking kidding me?
He's like, I got plenty of.
I got 10 off the top of my head right now that I could ramble off to you. You shouldn't do it, but I've got plenty of reasons.
Yeah. Shouldn't. Like
that's the fundamental difference.
Personal responsibility.
Yes,
right?
personal
But
responsibility. Nuance. What is the what were we gonna break into now? Do you want to break into our do we want to
I don't
break?
know, dude.
We're gonna take a break for religion right now.
Oh, we're not gonna do Tim Kennedy?
We are gonna do Tim Kennedy. We're gonna do it right after this.
All of them. Okay.
Yeah, it's the money shot.
Oh man.
What?
Talk about your theory and then I'll lead it back in.
Nolan and I were sitting down yesterday. We're having a talk over two, and the subject of religion came up. And I was thinking to myself, because listen, I couldn't help myself from thinking this. I've started to take multiple spiritual paths lately, right? Reading books on Stoicism, and I'm just trying to find a spiritual path for myself and for my family, right? Because I've got some young kids, and I want them to be able to find their way, things that I wasn't necessarily able to do when I was younger. And so I was sitting in church, Christian church, and last week or a couple of weeks ago, and the pastor was talking about how before Jesus came along, in order to repent for your sins, you would kill a lamb. You would sacrifice a lamb. And
lamb slaughter.
And so my mind starts going on. And he goes, now, when Christianity came around and when Jesus Christ began, when he died on the cross for our sins and is given the explanation for everything, I don't know a lot about Christianity, so I'm kind of learning this as I go because I don't know a lot about it. And he says before that, in Judaism, they would kill a lamb. They would sacrifice a lamb every time somebody would need to repent for their sins. And so I started coming up with this theory that I wonder, just hear me out here, guys. If PETA had been around, and maybe they have been around for several thousand years.
Can't tell me they haven't been.
You can't tell me they haven't been. How do you know that PETA didn't exist in a different form 3, 4, 5,000 years ago? The protection of animals has been a fundamental thing since the dawn of time. Okay, stop. Wait. I see you're about to say something. How do we know that the entire Christian apparatus, as it is right now, isn't just the underbelly of it. The engine behind it isn't PETA.
How do we know?
Because everybody, as humans became less moral, as values became less prominent, as the world was beginning to kill each other and commit sins and cheat on their wife and hurt thy neighbor, how do we know that lambs weren't getting slaughtered left and right? There was just the slaughter of lambs happening because, I just figured out that at some point in time, I could fuck my neighbor and I'll kill a lamb. I can steal from that dude and I'll slaughter a lamb. they were running out of mutton very quick. And they had no, the farmers were taking a huge hit. You know what I mean? Now lambs were being stolen to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
And how do we know that PETA somewhere was involved that said, hey, like, we got to stop killing lambs. We need one dude. We
gotta kill this one guy.
This one guy.
Listen, it's for the greater good of all
lambhood. All the lambs
Maybe
and all
it was
the
the
animals out there.
fucking lambs, dude. Maybe they
Maybe.
like what happened with
Collective
Chick-fil-A, where
conscience.
maybe it was came together and started a restaurant.
That's what I'm. Listen, hear me out. Hear me out. So PETA and all of its
political
glory
organization
said, hey,
run by cows.
hey, we're gonna take this one dude. We are gonna say that he is the Son of God. He is going to be there
I love this theory.
to take all of the sins away for the rest of humanity, for the rest of the existence of humans being on earth and lambs being on earth.
Okay.
And we will save all the lambs, and all we have to do is sacrifice one dude. And that one dude was the head of PETA. And his name was Jesus Christ.
What we're getting at is Jesus Christ was the front man for PETA.
Jesus Christ was the front man for PETA.
He was the Osama bin Laden of PETA.
Fucking Christ.
Dude, can we please?
I can't wait to see the unsubs on this fucking
Can
video,
we
dude.
please make that
Jesus
a t-shirt?
Christ. Listen,
Just a Jesus face.
I am not-
And
I'm-
it says the Osama bin Laden
I
of
am not
PETA.
by any means making this claim. But what I'm saying is, on my journey to find Christ, on my journey, as I'm sitting inside of a Christian church, trying to educate myself, trying to find spirituality, trying to find God, trying to have a relationship with God, trying to build a relationship with a power greater than myself.
You found a deep respect for lambs.
I found myself thinking, I'm being honest here. I'm just being honest. Like everybody else, I'm sure, was sitting there like legitimately listening to what this man is saying. Yet I am going, I wonder if this could have been just a way to save the lambs.
Yeah. It means you're just super jaded.
It means I'm super
It's
fucked
not like
up.
the worst thing in the world there, because I say, like, when I sit in church, I just think, like,
publicly. Now, do I think, like, honestly, that is like what happened?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. No, I'm just kidding. Do I honestly think that's what? No, of course not. I just thought I thought it was interesting that that's where my fucking mind goes sometimes.
And now you know what it's like to try and wrangle this podcast.
ADHD is a superpower.
ADHD is a hell of a.
That's what they say.
ADHD is a hell of a drug.
So,
It's a superpower like PCP is a superpower.
yeah. You can jump.
Like, it
a fence.
is, but it's also not.
It is, but it's not.
Now back to the show.
Now, back to the show. We have a lot of individuals and companies that are part of the 2A space that, whether they use it for capitalistic means, just to build their own brand, to market towards the Second Amendment. Like, I mean, this is not shade towards BRCC, but coffee has nothing to do with guns.
Yeah.
It has, but they used the Second Amendment because, they like guns, they like shooting, they had that veteran sense of humor. That's great. Absolutely. Market it like that.
It's target marketing, and it works.
But then why did, every veteran or every fucking gun guy go, I only drink BRCC now?
Yeah.
Right?
That's why I'm always like
You know what I
defending
mean?
them, is because, like, they were vets. They made stuff that just appealed to vets, and that kind of became a coffee company, and then
they
that
did do
just
a lot
was
of
their
good
market
stuff for
Yeah.
veterans.
But like, there was
Amazing
no point.
stuff for veterans.
Yeah, but there was like no point in any of their stuff where they came out and they were like, "Listen, Folgers is communist, and if you don't buy BRCC, you know what I mean?"
Right.
Like, they were just like, "Hey, man, we fuck around and we sell coffee. What's good?" Like,
So that wasn't anything about them being anti-2A, but that was just an example of entities that will leverage the Second Amendment or that appearance
it's an easy market. It's a very easy
to sell.
established market.
Because as people in the 2A space, we want to support those who support the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
And it's scary because you have individuals and businesses who market themselves like, yes, we're Second Amendment, we're pro Second Amendment, right? But you have an M&P Sport and your majority shareholders are owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. And you have people who are asking questions and who are unable to stand up and actually say how they feel. It's a cowardice way of putting ideas and opinions out there. You see it with the white pride movement. You see it with, any racist movement, they'll pose questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of just saying what they believe. And you see this littered throughout the Second Amendment space is the I'm pro 2A. But when you're not looking, I'm doing it for a paycheck.
Yeah.
And continue.
It's the same as when you look at, I mean, I know that we're trying to get to it or we already did, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing that Trump does, because it's the same thing that every politician does, because there's no way to be a politician without doing it.
They are who they are talking to for the most part.
Right. You know who your target audience is, you know who your market is, and you're going to address that audience. And anybody that's, any business has a targeted audience that they're going after.
Trump,
if you're going after 2A, like...
Trump on Oprah said if he would ever run for president, he would run under the Republican Party because they are the least intelligent voters.
Yeah. And he said that in what, 89?
I think it was like the 90s
like
or something.
Yeah.
I'll pull up the clip.
It's actually a really good interview though. I'll also give Trump the credit that like what he said on Oprah then and in other interviews where he was asked about running for president through the 80s and 90s, he's never changed his opinions.
He's consistent.
Like he's consistent for 40 years.
But the real question is, did he get a car?
Yeah.
Did he get a car?
Oprah.
Yeah.
She was like, everybody at night.
Yeah, not you.
And that's one reason probably why the whole tirade that I was just on is why you have individuals like Tim Kennedy who, besides for all the other stuff that he may or may not have fucked up in certain situations, you have somebody who is marketing towards the 2A crowd who, while on a podcast, will advocate for gun control.
Which was an accident. You know what I mean?
Is it an accident or is it a slip?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a slip. He forgot that the room he was in, the environment he was in, wasn't his target marketplace. So he was playing to a different market.
It's pandering.
And he's pandering. He's a politician. He is whatever the room is. And he just forgot, because he's not that bright. He just forgot that, like, people will see this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like to argue the opposite. I think Tim Kennedy is actually incredibly intelligent, and I think he's very aware.
I think he's a government psyop tool that I'm so dead serious. He's a government psyop that just bear with me. Him, Chris Kyle, the lone survivor, what's his name?
I don't know.
Marcus Luttrell.
Mark Wahlberg?
Marcus Luttrell. No, Marcus Luttrell. There is a handful of guys from the Global War on Terror that came out of the service with these legendary, mythical backgrounds and stories behind them. But those stories, the things that propelled them to national awareness, that they were able to flex into a financial gain, the thing that put them on that national stage originally was a government psyop. Like, you want to talk, the lone survivor is the most egregious one. Marcus Luttrell, when you look at him, when you look in his fucking eyes, he knows it and he hates it. You can see it in him. He's living a sin and he knows it. He said in an interview before the book and the movie had come out that he threw his gun down and hid because he threw his gun down so that he could put his fingers in his ears.
Because he didn't want to hear his teammates screaming.
He couldn't listen to the sounds of his dying teammates anymore. And I'm not saying that what he did on that mountain was wrong. It was 4 dudes against who knows how many fighters. They were fucked. You can't Monday morning quarterback any decision that he made. But he threw his gun down. He left his friend to die. When the Rangers came in and got him out of the town, they asked him specifically, is anyone else on the mountain? And he looked at them and said, no, I saw them die with my own eyes. He made it a point. They are all dead. There's no reason for us to go up on that mountain and try to get bodies. We will come back. They made a command decision. We're going to get Marcus out, and we will come back and do body recovery. When they got to Axel's body, he was, in the movie, sitting against a tree with a round in his head.
Yeah.
Real Axel was found sitting against a tree, sitting up like that, and had lived for 4 fucking days.
Oh, shit.
So the real story is he throws his gun down. They get separated. He is not the lone survivor. He's the one that gets taken into this town, which that story is also kind of gray area. The amount of time that they have him before he gets rescued is kind of a gray area. But it's his fault that Axel gets left on the mountain by himself. The real lone survivor is Axel. That dude was out of bullets, out of water, out of food, no friends, and just sat against a tree and died.
Shit.
Right? But if you're Marcus Luttrell and the government comes to you, the SEAL administration comes to you, the intelligence departments come to you, and they're like, listen, This is going to be an international story. We need to have
control the
PR
narrative.
spin.
We need to
gotta
control.
the story cannot be that one of our first big time secret operations in Afghanistan completely fucking failed. We've got to spin it in a positive way. So we spin it as like, look at the fucking might, the power, the will to win that Navy SEALs have. It vaults him into a national, not eyesight. He gets all this national attention because of it. And then why wouldn't you write a book, right? Like, why wouldn't you? And now you get stuck in this lie that you're in, right? Fuck. And anybody that thinks I'm being like too harsh on like the global war on terror guys, the Flags of Our Fathers movie that was done by Clint Eastwood addresses one of the most notorious PR spins of the U.S. government during World War II. The Iwo Jima flag, the soldiers raising the flag, it's all like 4 or 5 of them putting the flag up together. The infamous picture of that flag going up on Iwo Jima was a recreation. The actual flag is this shitty little stick and this shitty little flag that was in somebody's backpack. The guys that fought, took the hill, put the flag up, had moved on and were on the front lines. The media crews came into a safe environment where there was no fighting, recreated the guys putting the flag up, took the infamous picture, and then the soldiers that were there for the recreation were sent back stateside to travel around the country and sell war bonds. And the movie Flags of Our Fathers is about those guys. It covers some of it, but like that is a PR spin that the government you have to be in control of the narrative. Tim Kennedy, right? Tim Kennedy's in the special operations. He's got 1 million awards. He's a stud, right? Why isn't he on any teams? Why do no teams want him? Why is he an active duty Green Beret that has time to go fight in the UFC? Why is he active duty and has time to be on the History Channel? If you're a fucking solid ass dude in my platoon, do I get rid of you to go fight in the UFC? No. So he was available because they didn't want him on the team. You know what I mean? Just because you made it through selection at Q course doesn't mean that they liked you. Doesn't mean that you're a quality person. So that is my character defect with why weren't you on the team?
Has he never been on a team?
No, he was.
Okay.
But like, talk to special operations guys. Like that shit's like, the tab doesn't, it's like with anything. Me and you be in service, like, you know what I mean? Like there's infantry dudes out there that are morons, right? Like just having been infantry doesn't mean anything. Just having had that long tab doesn't necessarily mean that you were like the highest spending dude ever. There's a moron in every group. And if Tim Kennedy was like tossed out to do recruitment, like he's going in the UFC ring during the global war as a special operations Green Beret, it's a fucking excellent recruitment tool. It's an excellent recruitment tool.
No doubt.
And now he's got national, like he can roll that into something. Watch him shoot. He can't shoot, dude.
Interesting.
Like I got to go to Florida and shoot this $6,000 2011 that's like fully built, fully comped thing, had no recoil. And then that gun went to him. It was a giveaway gun to him that I got to film with before it went to him.
Yeah.
Footage of me and other guys shooting on the range. UFC fighters have like never shot a gun before from fucking Yugoslavia or whatever. The thing's got no recoil. Tim Kennedy's little review video, he couldn't hold on to it. It was crazy. And there's like weird cuts where it was like malfunctioning and he didn't know how to like, it's weird, dude. It's weird. All I'm saying is there's clear evidence that the government will get in front of a narrative and use an individual person to push a narrative. And then that guy gets stuck in it, you know? And like, dude, you start looking into Chris Kyle and American Sniper stuff. It's not a good road to go down either. And I'm not trying to take a dump on those dudes. I'm just saying like it's a real potential that's what that actually is. And then Tim it really fits. Yeah. Like meet the guy. It really fits, doesn't he? He just feels like a Hollywood.
I just thought he was eccentric by nature.
I think he's a fucking douchebag. I fucking hate him.
I mean, he landed. We're at
everything. He's on fucking Fox News and the History Channel. When you think veteran, you think Tim Kennedy.
He likes an entrance. I know that. I mean, we were at Demolition Ranch's range day. Everybody else just drove out there. He landed his helicopter on the range. When we saw that news bit with him, most people just like walk up to the microphone. He pulled his like Ducati up to
that Fox News. I watched that one morning. That was one of my best performances. That Fox News interview with Tim Kennedy built my Instagram because I watched it on the news and I was like, no, I'm clipping that into 30 seconds. And that's the one where he's like, yeah, I had to answer the red bat phone. I had a red bat phone in my house and my dad had stolen cocaine from Pablo Escobar. And I had to answer the phone and explain to Pablo Escobar why my dad couldn't bring the cocaine back. Like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Everything good that you did is now completely irrelevant because you're such a giant liar that I don't believe anything. There's no, he says in that same interview that he was baking bread with his mother, okay, which is just a weird thing.
I baked bread with my mother.
But whatever, it's a weird thing to say. He's baking bread with his mom.
He's trying to paint a picture, all right?
Yeah, he goes into the garage to bring
to Jake go on for 15 minutes about the idea of Jesus Christ.
You guys can't bring up Tim Kennedy without me. So he's baking bread with his mom, and he takes the fresh fucking banana bread, dude, into the garage where his dad and his dad's friends are, right? This is the story that he tells. I go into the garage where my dad and my dad's friends are, and there's 2 pallets of cocaine. He then watches his dad and his friends, which we're just assuming from the story are Delta Force special operations guys that are working in the Iran-Contra cocaine scandal under the Reagan administration, one of the biggest scandals the American government's ever been involved in. Tim Kennedy is saying that all of that shit is 100% true because I saw my dad distributing cocaine into the ghettos in LA in the 80s. He doesn't even know how big of a lie he's telling. Like, he's confirming that the United States government sold cocaine to the American populace. You know what I mean? Breezing over that fact, he then goes on to say that his dad, that they broke all of the cocaine down into 8-ball size quantities, distributed into the hood, and then went around and arrested all of the guys that had gotten cocaine and didn't lose a single gram. He says the phrase, there's 2 pallets of cocaine. And they didn't lose a single gram of cocaine. Look, man. Look, man. Have you ever fucking done cocaine?
Yes.
I lose a single gram looking for the gram. You know what I mean? What the fuck are you talking? The first thing that a drug dealer does with cocaine is like, yeah. Fuck yeah. But you didn't lose any? It's just bullshit. It's just so much bullshit. Why? Like, why tell that bullshit story? He's so fucking dumb that he can't see the fact he's confirmed one of the biggest conspiracy theories in American history, that the CIA sold cocaine into the ghettos. He's confirming that he saw it with his own eyes as a 10-year-old kid, and it can't fucking translate in his brain.
It's banana bread at work.
It's banana bread at work, dude. I have such an issue with him. I have such an issue.
When I was
also, for what it's worth,
I'm thinking about like 8 years old, 10 years old, and like where I was at 8 years old and 10 years old. At 8 years old and 10 years old, I was completely oblivious that my parents were smoking weed on a regular basis.
Right.
And the reason why I was oblivious that my parents were smoking weed on a regular basis is because at 13 years old, my buddy came up to me and said, "Hey man, you want to skateboard from house to house tonight to get candy on Halloween?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude." Yeah. And so then we proceeded to skate from house to house and made a pit stop at Pecan Park in Orangeville, California, at which time his name was Jake also proceeded to remove a little joint from wherever he was carrying it in his backpack or whatever it was, and lit it. And when he lit it, and again, I was 13 years old, when he lit it, I smelled the scent of my parent.
Yeah.
He lit it up.
Ended.
He lit it up and he took a hit. And as soon as I smelled it, I said, "Oh my fucking God, dude." And he goes, "What?" And I was like, "My parents smoke weed."
Yeah.
And he goes, "How do you know?" And I was like, "'Cause that's what I smell in my house every day for the last, over a decade I've been alive. And every time I ask them what the smell is, they tell me it's incense. It's weed." And I was like, "Holy shit, I can't believe it." And then I proceeded to get royally ripped out of my fucking mind because...
And question the universe and everything you knew about everything because your entire system was a lie.
Yeah. I was like,
smoking weed for the first time. I know. Is the best.
Yeah. So I had no idea. Like, the fact I could have walked out into my garage when I was a young man and saw 2 pallets of cocaine, and my dad could have been like, "That's baking powder." And I would have been like, "Sweet, my parents are in the baking industry." And I would have went back to whatever I was was doing and not even thought about
just
it.
30
and what I'm
seconds.
doing is like furthering, just like I am now. Does me being a naive kid, does that make him a naive kid? Hold on, let me finish the fucking story about the marijuana. I proceeded to get royally ripped and then like eat like a 20 pounds of candy and skate around with my friend. And when I got picked up by my mom from his house that evening, and I got in the car, she looked at me and she said, "You've been smoking weed." And I looked at her and I said, "So have you." And she was like, "Fuck." Right? So it was like,
you got me, little Jimmy.
You got me.
So what's interesting to me is, why didn't his dad lock the garage door?
It's like a 30-second clip of him on Fox News, on national news, where
Just like, I got these 2 pallets of cocaine. I leave the garage door unlocked while my homies are in here, while we're doing the illegal thing. But no, son, come on in here.
son.
Bring me the fucking banana bread at work, bro.
When we went on that news show. When we went on to that news show at the beginning of the year, the Armstrong Williams show, which like I cannot manage to get us footage of. I really want to know what I looked like at the end of it. So we went on that national news show, and the end
Armstrong
of it,
Getty?
yeah,
No, Armstrong
Williams.
I know.
He looked the end of that thing. It's like an hour and a half of me sweating bullets and really holding it together. I thought it went super good. And then the very last 30 seconds of the show, he's like, looks at me and he goes, "So do you have anything to add?" And I was like, No. I like whispered to him like, well, we were live. I thought it was like this. Like I'll be like, "Oh no," and it's like some guy in post will like fix that awkward moment. Nope, live. I just was like frozen on
I
TV.
kind of like it because it's like, "Hey, do you have anything else to add?" And you're just like,
Where is this footage?
I don't know.
I don't know. Dude,
Can we
I'm trying
play
to
it
get
right
it, dude. Because I called
I
out
thought
the
it was
entire. So there was a 30-minute live portion and an hour national portion, and I went in on the federal government. I mean, both sides, all of it. I went fucking in. I expected to get raided by like the FBI after we did that shit, and then I can't. I don't know what happened. It's just
I straight up looked.
It's not on their channel?
no. It's on. It's not like it's not a YouTube thing, and like it's local access news nationwide. So like the footage exists, but it's been more challenging to get than I thought it would be.
On national television, I said they were willing to lie to you about it in the 80s. What makes you think they're telling the truth now?
Yeah. Dude, we went after like Ruby Ridge and all on like a regular like daytime news show. We were just like, well, the fucking ATF, you know what I mean?
Like the ATF will literally kill you and burn your house down. Why wouldn't they lie to you
The
about
exact same
smuggling
conversation that
illegal
we have like
immigrants?
this, but just on a very polished news show. My point is just like,
We're in Tacticon,
yeah, I had this hat on, and he was like, "You have to take your hat off," and I was like, "I only wear a hat," and he was like, "We're a respectable show." Like, oh my god, like I look like this now.
We had to put makeup on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Whole thing. It was very cool. But
turned around
my
right
point is
there.
like we were both nervous as shit to go on that show.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that Tim Kennedy's not nervous and being very careful with what he says when he goes on Fox. And that still came out of his mouth. What's that dude like with like 3 or 4 beers in the bar? You know?
That's someone I want to meet.
Yeah.
Drunk Tim Kennedy.
Maybe he always is.
shit.
I think it was the last podcast. You were like, I want to know what Bill Cosby's like.
I want to get fucking trashed with Bill Cosby. And I can't get it out of my head now. I've been thinking about it nonstop. What do you think? I'm telling you, Bill Cosby absolutely just trash drunk. That dumbass, like that would, dude, it'd be too much. It would be too much. You wouldn't be able to stop laughing.
I just imagine Tim Kennedy is no shit. There
I think he
was,
has sex with dudes.
knee deep in Hodgepodge Valley.
Deep Haji butthole.
Knee deep in Hodgepodge Valley.
It's just
Scared.
it's just too many lies for me to be cool with. And then
His
my issue
direct-
is that he's the
his
easiest access to the veteran community. So all of the big news and big names go to Tim. Joe Rogan has Tim Kennedy on to be like, so what do you think about the withdrawal? Oh, you want to know what happened during the withdrawal? Tim Kennedy flew from the United States of America into fucking Afghanistan, not as an active duty soldier, just had connections, gets to HKIA. He's sponsored by 511 and takes these weird 511 gear pictures where all of his gear is set up like a fucking drunken retard put it together. Like no self-respecting combat guy would ever wear their gear like Tim Kennedy supposedly did during the withdrawal from Afghanistan. But also while he's there, you know that part where all those people flooded the fucking airport? The original reports from the Marines on ground were that Tim Kennedy cut a fucking lock, opened up a whole gate, and that's where all those people came from. So from 50 feet, I have no proof of this, but from 50 feet, Tim Kennedy during the withdrawal flew over, took some fucking Instagram pictures, and then caused an international crisis where people fell from the bottom of planes. And then goes on Joe Rogan's show to be like, well, we're fucking Afghanistan, bro.
I have a couple buddies.
Unbelievable.
They have corroborated.
Yeah. It's not. It's like it's a thing where like there's no video, there's no government document to say that he did it, but like that's what fucking happened. All of the people that flooded the airport, it was because he had stolen a van and he was trying, because he's a part of the Operation fucking Banana Express or whatever the fuck it was, right? Which he was not a part of either. We'll just keep that fucking truck moving too. But they got this bus and they were like, we're going to get Afghans out. And they just fucking cut a gate open and then lost control of it.
Fuck.
It's so unbelievable that it's believable.
Yeah.
You know?
Like,
and then he's on fucking Joe Rogan afterwards. That guy speaks for me? Fuck no. That dude doesn't speak for me.
Right.
That's my issue with him.
Yeah. Sorry. No.
Don't put Tim Kennedy in a podcast again. I'll ruin an hour of the show.
It'll just be the same thing.
It's that my name is connected to his name. My service is connected to the things that he says, and I don't want that. I don't want my reputation connected to him.
I don't think it is, personally.
You don't think? I feel like he speaks for veterans, and that's why I hate him so much.
Yeah. So I'll die on that hill.
He's a king vet.
I don't think so, and here's why. Because I also make the argument that just because there's people in the 2A space or the 2A YouTube space that make stuff that I disagree with, I don't think they speak for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
You know what I mean? I understand because
I feel like we're in a motorcycle club and that guy's wearing my colors saying dumb shit, and I'm like, you need to take my fucking
I was
colors
just
off,
about to
bro.
say, but there's that nuance of it is the veteran community versus morons on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
And
You know
that's
what I mean?
when he's like anti-2A.
So I do kind of see that.
His entire argument is always like, well, as a veteran and a ranger sniper, like, why do you even have to say
that's
that?
exactly. Your dog tags don't matter when you wear a red coat, dude. It's the...
Oh, man, dude, that was good.
So
that was real good, dude.
It's hard, as a civvy, I'm not a veteran, but from my perspective, they don't speak. I wouldn't say Tim Kennedy speaks for any veteran other than Tim Kennedy. And especially when I see people who claim to be veterans who are like, well, as a veteran, I believe with gun control. I'm like, I don't fucking care that you're a veteran.
If you
that means nothing to me.
It is 100%
joined the military.
If you have to tell
100%
me,
irrelevant.
Right.
If anything, you worked for the federal government, of which I don't trust.
I trust you less now.
if you have to tell me, like when Tim Kennedy comes out and he's like, I was a ranger sniper airborne, like, that's a weird thing. How many spec ops guys, like real true blue, like hard-nosed pipe hitter fucking tier 1 guys have you just bumped into in the world? None of them walk up to you and give you their fucking resume.
No.
It's just
It kind of reminds me of like, how many girls do I have to have sex with before I prove I'm not gay?
Yeah, I'm not gay, dude. So many girls. Jessica, and Jess. Like, I had so many, Jess.
Jesse?
She goes to a different school, dude. You don't know her. She goes to a different school, dude.
I was introduced, we went to an event one time where I was introduced to a guy. So before I was introduced to him, somebody had came up to me. It might have been you, Nolan, who you'd pulled me over to talk to a guy. But before pulling me over to talk to him,
I never pull guys over. Talk to him.
You said, or somebody, whoever it was that introduced me to him, I remember they said, listen, this dude was Delta, CAG, yada, yada, yada. Very like high speed dude.
Right.
I just want you to meet him. Then brought me over there. Didn't introduce him as that. Just said, hey dude,
it's Brian.
This guy's name is Tyler. Yeah. And I said, what's up? My name is Jake. And that was it.
Right.
So there was no introduction. And then the entire conversation that I had with the guy never alluded. Nope. He was talking about some things.
He's great.
He is. Yeah, he's an amazing dude. The entire conversation that I talked to the guy, he was talking about things that he went through and some armor variations that he would invent if he had the capabilities we had to produce armor, but never. Ever.
He never tried to put his nuts on the table.
No, never once.
He doesn't have to.
He never once
heard him say back in the teams.
Never said back in the teams. Never said
professionals.
He could have been a regular infantry guy. Yeah. He could have been in the Air Force. I don't fucking know. Yeah. Like he just literally just talked about experiences that he had while he was overseas. I mean, the dude has been shot in the arm. It was very apparent because his forearm was half gone. It was wrecked, and so. He was talking about some armor solutions to prevent that from happening to guys that cleared rooms on a regular basis because the thing that's out in front of your body are your arms.
But those guys never. Also, can I just throw this in here since I just went so ham on Tim Kennedy and Chris Kyle and like Morgan or Marcus Luttrell? Like I just went fucking ham on these dudes.
Yep.
There is a podcast series called the Anti-Hero Podcast.
That's where we saw the Jocko clip.
Those dudes are doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
Because their argument is we are silent professionals.
Got it.
If you left this organization and you went and made a movie, you're full of shit. And that's their line. We're silent fucking The people that actually do this job aren't telling stories. You know what I mean?
And
like,
it seems like all of them are out there with the fucking YouTube channel. And the reason why
he never
we've
addressed
joked
shit.
about that the out processing you know how they have out processing events in the Army? You know, there's this out processing event. Well, out processing events in the military is there's a bunch of booths. There are banks that are trying to get your business.
Right, yeah.
There's like, hey, here's some accounting and financial advice. And then this booth here is YouTube. And they're like, what would you like your handle to be? But it has to end in actual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Firefly actual.
Mike Glover actual. Right. So it has to be, I don't know. I've always just thought like, is there some out processing requirement for like these tier 1 dudes to like?
It's like you're a vet and you've built this entire company, and obviously like you're very proud of being a veteran. Like you don't hide it. But every episode doesn't start with you saying like I'm Jacob Dimes and I served X number of years in the United States Army. And like
I don't do that.
No real human being acts like this.
Well, if anything, I talk.
It's a program thing that they're doing. Like,
it's partial humility and just being humble.
Yeah.
Like
how many times do I have to find out Mike Glover was a sergeant major in the Green Berets?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't fucking care, dude.
It's like pulling teeth to get me to talk about martial arts sometimes.
It is, yeah.
Because
it's
I knew you for a long time before I realized you're a black belt, and you didn't tell me you were a black belt. Your fucking brother did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And you tell everyone.
And I will tell everyone.
He will kick your ass after I talk shit.
But my instructor, it was always, you don't talk about this.
Yeah.
Like you don't talk about it at school.
Right.
You don't talk about it with your friends. You don't like.
And there's like so many reasons that you don't talk about it.
That's business for him, right? He could be like, go tell all your friends you do karate and you want them to do. No, he said, you don't talk about it.
Because step 1 is humility.
Right.
Because if you are a humble person, then you accept the fact that your enemy is dangerous.
So
you have respect for your enemy and you'll stay the fuck alive in dangerous jobs. If you're not humble, you're a dead man because you go, landmines.
So he enforced the first rule of Fight Club, essentially.
Never talk about Fight Club.
Right.
He ran. So I got this fucking meme. I downloaded it today.
Anti-Hero Podcast. Go listen to the Anti-Hero Podcast. I fucking love those guys. They're doing the Lord's work.
I'm so happy you brought this up because it's
because one of the guys is a CAD guy.
It's a tweet.
Like he knows. He knows.
Yeah. He's like, I'm telling you right now.
Said, I didn't open this dojo to teach kids discipline and respect. I opened this dojo so parents would pay me money to fight their children.
I got a divorce.
Was that your coach's or your sensei's post?
No.
Was that his, I was like, that's fucking hilarious.
That's the title of his sensei's book.
But what's interesting, just last little poke on Tim Kennedy. I took this from one of his videos. It's a comment. And this guy goes, if Tim Kennedy told me the sun was going to rise tomorrow morning, I would wait to see it for myself before I believed him.
Yeah. And
some of those comments, dude, those comments were actually because he was also talking about he allude what other things was he alluding to on the Lance Armstrong podcast? It was you have to if. I think you should have military service before you own a firearm. I think there was a bunch of dumb shit like that there should be an age requirement of like 21 years old.
Yeah. I
know he was on.
I know
he was on Joe Rogan at one point in time.
Well, Joe Rogan's brought him on multiple times to talk big arching picture of the global war on terror, and it fucking boils my blood every time because like he just say what it was, just actually say that no one knew what they were doing and it was a bunch of bullshit. Just say that.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah,
stop churching it up.
Yeah.
Was what it was. The reason you have 22 vets that killed themselves today is because when we went to Afghanistan,
we had no fucking idea why.
I will die. I will give my life as a 19-year-old man. I signed my will. It's a hell of a commitment.
Yeah.
I made that commitment because I believed that my sacrifice of my life would move the global world in a better direction.
You thought you were finding sand.
I could sacrifice my life for the betterment of children in Afghanistan. Why would I not do that? From this position of power and privilege that we have as American citizens, for me to go to a third world country and give my life for the betterment of their next generation means that we build another America, a better country, a better future for the world. And then you're in Afghanistan for 2 weeks and realize like, well, it's not
That's not happening.
That ain't what the fuck we're doing.
What was the number one question that people asked you? It was a lot more common back then than it is now. I haven't been asked this for a long time. It was kind of like when it first kicked off, when people would see you in uniform, or people knew that you were currently and actively serving, or had just recently deployed, or maybe you're coming home on R&R. What was the number one question?
So many things.
What was the number one question that people would ask you, the civilians that would ask you?
You ever kill anybody? That's what I got.
Okay, there was
Every
that.
college party.
Okay, no. I'm talking about just like
What's
like
really
an
going on over there, man?
yeah. So like an
Yeah.
adult. That's what it was right there. It was the number one question that I was asked, and not by of course by my friends. They'd be like, "Did you kill anybody?" But I'm talking about just the person that saw you on an air. The person
correct answer to that, forever and always, is I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about the person that was
give me the
sitting.
side eye.
Yep.
The person that was sitting next to you on the airplane. What was the question? It was always
Probably that, like, what's going on over there? Like, can you tell me the truth about, like, everyone knows that
exactly.
it's not,
So
Everyone knows the government's lying to them, but they just believe them anyway.
Exactly. So the question that I got very specifically that seemed to be almost just copy pasted was, so do you think we should be there?
yeah, that's true. I got that a lot too.
Right. Like, do you think, do you think we should be there? And my response was always like, I'm a Humvee gunner and my sector of fire is 10 to 2. That's all I know, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could tell you what fell into the parameters of 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock in any given direction. Lead truck, rear truck, whatever it may be. But outside of that, I have no idea what I was even doing day to day.
No.
I don't know.
I don't even know
I'd be
where I
like,
was.
hey, where are we go? I swear to God, I didn't know
you
where the
have to
fuck I
look
was.
up on,
Like my squad leader would be like, hey, we're going to do a thing in Shawalikot today. And I'd be like, okay. All I need to know.
That's a left, right?
Yeah, like I had
Where am I going?
I had no fucking idea where I was.
And when
I
you
had
get
no
a
idea
map,
what
it's just
I
your
was
little
like.
area, you know?
Yeah.
Like I did recon, we did shit all fucking over the eastern part of Afghanistan. It was 10 years after that deployment till I got on Google one day and was like, where the fuck was I?
I know.
I just had a map of my shit.
Did you ever do that? Like know that because like I knew I was in.
Other guys will be like, oh, I was in blah 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 province and blah 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 province. I'll be like, we drove down a road once and we always went left.
Oh no, yeah, no. I knew that. I always heard like of like where we ended up.
Turn
so
left at the drone
I always
Right,
knew
yeah.
like I know. And for any of you in Afghanistan, it'd be cool because I'm gonna like roll through some fucking names of places that we were in. Some people might be like, oh yeah, I was there.
Shout out.
Yeah. So I knew that we were in like. We went to Shawalikot a lot. We went to Goombat a lot. We went to Panjwai a lot. Like these are the places that we would end up. I was always next to the Arghandab River, right? Like I was always there next to the Arghandab River, which by the way was like this, like it was imagine like nuclear looking water like this. You know the water that you see like on The Simpsons next to the power plant?
Yeah.
Like that like bright green.
Yeah.
It was that color. It was very much that color and everybody was swimming in it.
Yeah.
And it
That
was
same river could be 6 inches deep or 16 feet deep.
Yes. And nobody knows.
Nobody knows how, like, why
It looked like it was very much a like
US
man-made.
military launched depleted uranium rounds into it like months prior.
There was the trash bin.
Yeah, dude. And it just kids.
It's all
were
burning
swimming in
Simple
it.
Green that gave us all cancer.
And it
for
looked
100%.
very. It wasn't a river by any means. It was an aqueduct, if we're being real, because it was very much an aqueduct. It was a man-made. Like you could see the carvings out on the side, and the water was coming from somewhere, Lake Arghandab, I think. And we would just end up in these places, man. And like I don't fucking know like where I was. I especially don't know what the fuck I was doing.
I had a buddy get hurt in a town. And it was like an infamous from like my first deployment, all the guys from the sick bastard platoon, like it's an infamous day for all of us, you know, like it's a historic day.
Yep.
I don't remember what the name of the town was because I brain dumped it after I realized the mistake we had made. But like there was this town and we all would, they say Kali Kalat or whatever.
Yeah.
We would talk about it for years after that. Like, dude, you know,
Was there a sheik in the town?
dude, we're gonna go.
Was there a sheik?
We're gonna fucking get together. We're gonna go to Pakistan. We're gonna drive in. We're gonna go back to fucking Bali Kalat. We're gonna fucking kill everybody. You know what I mean? Like we all knew the name of that town in our core.
Yeah.
When I started Googling Afghanistan map and trying to figure out better like the bigger picture of what I was doing and where I was, I realized that town name that we called it on missions was what you call a town in Darcy or whatever the fuck they speak.
It wasn't even the name of the town?
Yeah, every single town in Afghanistan was the town name, and then it ended with that word. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, so I have no idea. Like, now, like, when I look at a map, like, I have no idea where it happened. It's just a, like, core foundational. Like it
Yeah.
made me who I am. Like that day made me who I am. And I have no idea the name of the town. Couldn't find it on a map if I wanted to.
Devastating.
Yeah, it's like memorizing like, yeah, dude, we were on Street.
Yeah, that's
Hell
exactly what we were doing. Yeah, I was trying to. I remember we were like just words. I would like look up words and what they meant afterwards. I was like called everybody Haji, and apparently Haji is like a
Yeah, it's only certain ones.
it's dignitarial.
Right.
It's
which
very
is kind
much
of the smear with it.
Right.
we smear with it, but
It's
they-
anybody that
but
has
it-
completed a Hajj
right.
is a Haji.
Yeah,
It's a good
Right.
thing
Which
to
is
be a Haji.
and which is a trek to Mecca, right? Like you had to go to Mecca.
Yeah, so you
yeah.
make the trek from anywhere in the world. You have to make a trek to Mecca once in your lifetime to be a practicing Muslim.
Right.
And that trek is called your Hajj.
Yeah.
So the journey, the struggle of the journey is your defining moment. And when you've completed it and you've walked around Mecca, you are now a Haji because you completed your Hajj.
Which is actually a compliment.
Kinda
So
dope.
when they heard us saying, "Yeah, this Haji right here," he was like, "Haji, sweet."
They're
That'd be
like,
like them in their accent going, "This man with big dick right here," and I'd be like, "Thank you."
It was like them calling me an
Yeah.
infidel. You want to talk about some shit I took to heart? Proud, proud infidel.
Proud
Yeah,
infidel.
Proud
Oh,
infidel.
yeah,
to
dude,
the
there was
damn
that.
dead.
Do you remember that T-shirt that was floating around for a long time? I don't know who made it or who thought to
Oh,
create
I
it,
have
but it
that
was
patch.
fucking.
Infidel.
It said Major League Infidel, and it had
have-
the guy with the fucking rifle, and it looked like the MLB
Sick.
sign. Yeah.
It was a company called Mil-Spec Monkey, which made the best hats ever, and they don't exist
I remember
anymore.
that company.
They also made a patch that I wore on my shit, still on my body
Said
armor to
Major
this
League
day.
Infidel.
No, it's pork eating crusader, and it's a crusader knight eating a big ass like.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that.
I didn't really like sausage or bacon or like pork made products that much before, but then as soon as it was like, oh, I'm a pork eating infidel, that's all I'm gonna eat.
That's all I want to eat.
That's all I want to eat. More bacon.
All right. Does anybody else have anything else?
I don't know. That's a
Did
weird
you ever?
note to end on.
Did you ever? Did you ever give them pork MREs? Take it out of the package and tell them it wasn't pork?
I'm not going to confirm or deny
I didn't-
any
I
dipping
didn't-
of bullets in
I didn't do
anything.
that either.
I'm not going to. They're absolutely unequivocally, we as a platoon did not ask everyone at home to mail us Vienna sausages and pork products specifically because it was very hard to keep the amount of pork products that we needed to lather all of our ammunition with. That did not happen.
No. Agreed.
It's been 10 years. It's fine. It's not a war crime anyways.
It's not a work.
If I can shoot you, I can dip my bullet in a hot dog beforehand. But fuck you and your soul for all eternity.
That's a sin. You should go kill a lamb. Okay. You should go kill a lamb.
If you're a Muslim and you get shot by a pork-laced bullet, you kill a Christian lamb, and then you.
Kill. Yes.
I grew up in the church.
But
I
it
don't think
must
that's
be
how
a-
it works.
yes.
No, you have to pay penance. Since you went down the religion thing, do you know where the term tithes or penance comes from?
Yes.
When
It
you
came,
pay
yes.
penance?
Yes. Can I tell you?
I love it.
So there was a movie called Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and before he steps onto that walkway where there was that huge gap, where
Yes.
before he gets to the Crusader, it was before
The
he
leap
ducked
of
the
faith.
blades. He ducked the blades.
Yeah.
The penitent men shall pass. The penitent men shall pass.
Yeah.
The penitent men shall pass. And then he ducks and he rolls.
Yeah.
And that's where they got the word
Penance?
penance was from
Indiana Jones?
Yes, in the Last Crusade. Yeah. And Harrison Ford, really, he was the one that actually scripted the movie. So he should be attributed to that word.
I can't tell if you're fucking with me or not.
I'm heavily fucking with you right now.
I was like, Jake, that's not true.
The fact that you would believe that,
said-
but you
he
won't
said
believe
the
Tim
penitent
Kennedy.
Dude, you had me fucked up for a
Dude,
second.
the word penitent is in the Bible.
You had me fucked up for a second.
Trust
I was
no
like, I
one.
like this story where
Trust nothing. Everyone will lie to you. Everyone will break your heart.
so the Catholic Church, right? So Christianity. This is my intrinsic issue with all organized religion as far as Western Christianity goes.
Okay.
The idea of Judaism, right, exists. That's basically the Old Testament of the Bible, right? That's where you have to kill a lamb and you have a priest that it has to communicate to God for you, right?
Yep.
The point of Christianity is that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is put on planet Earth to come here to be the Lamb of God, to die one final time, the final sacrificial
established that,
lamb.
PETA.
Yep. And then he removes the need for a priesthood.
Wait,
you
hold
now.
on. I'm not hearing in there where he was affiliated with PETA though, because that was clearly established before. Do you have an? Are you gonna work
so
that
he
in?
was half God, half human. His human side was a blue-haired liberal and was PETA.
Okay.
Moving
Carry on.
So he dies on the cross, right? And that absolves all humanity of their sins. He is now the cross bearer of all human sins. And that means that me and you can have a personal relationship with God. The Catholic Church that grows from that basic tenet establishes tithing and penance. Penance was the tax that you had to pay per step to get into the Catholic Church back in the day. Go back a couple thousand years. When you're sitting in your Southern Baptist church in Alabama and they pass the tithe plate around, that tradition comes from when you showed up at church. If you wanted to get into the building, you paid per step, and per step was your tithing, your penance. You were paying your penance to get into the church. And if you weren't rich enough to get into the church, you couldn't sit and meet with a priest to absolve you of your sins. So eternal damnation.
Huh.
Right?
No way.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Organized religion. Once you establish something, especially now in America, once you establish something that's a tax shelter, you should be leery of the people that run the organization. Not to say that church is bad. Western Christianity is all good.
Yeah, it does.
It
does amazing things for the community, and we, everybody's got.
If we lose Christianity in the United States, we will lose the United States. We will lose free men.
Right.
The basic tenet in Christianity that God supersedes man's laws is what allowed us to build a free society. So we cannot lose that tenet. All I'm saying is pay attention in church. Listen to the things that your pastor says.
I did.
Is that guy the guy you want to give your money to? Is that organization the organization you want to give your money to? Or is 6 months from now they're going to have gay weddings in church? Right? Are they going to carry the same line that you carry?
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm on board for Christianity. I'm just glad they're not slaughtering
100%
lambs anymore, because
if we lose Christianity, we lose the concept of free men, because free men is saying that I don't follow your rules. I follow a greater power.
Right.
And we can't lose that concept. If the greater power is the federal government, that's
someone's going to be a higher power. As human beings, we need that
and
higher
that's
power.
why they
and
want
our
to
higher power
destroy.
Needs to be God. It cannot be the federal government.
That's why they hate Christianity. That's why Hollywood and the media, the PSYOP wing of the government, that's why they hate Christianity so much, is because it removes the need for the government. The two cannot exist. And that's why you see in America now, when you remove God, humans will replace him with something. That's why politics are so hypercharged in our society now.
Right.
As you go back to the 60s, the president of the United States gets shot, and it's more of like a heartbreak for the country, but it's not really like a big political circus, because their religion wasn't politics. Now people believe if their candidate doesn't win, the world ends.
Right.
But if you believe in a higher power, the world doesn't end. It doesn't matter. Biden can win and plunge us into World War III, and it's okay because God has my back. I follow God's rules, not Biden's rules. But if you believe that Trump wins and he's Christ, right?
I see.
The loss of religion is a fundamental issue. That is a fundamental reason that you're seeing the United States fall apart the way it is. So I'm not trying to hammer Christianity. I'm just saying.
No, I totally understand that. Yeah, you lose. Yeah, you lose Christianity.
There's
thousands. You lose Christianity. You lose religion. We lose. Ultimately, our freedom. And we also going to lose. We're also going to lose a lot of lambs.
Lose the idea.
You'll lose a lot of lambs if you lose Christianity, because we're going to go back to sacrificing lambs.
You lose the idea that there is something greater than yourself.
Right.
And that's
exactly
the whole of the argument, which is we have fallen into a narcissistic rage within the United States, where it is all self-centered. It is all looking out for number one. It is all.
And we got these narcissism boxes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just a narcissism machine, man.
Fuel it. And it is, you have people not looking out for each other. You have people stealing from each other. And it is, I'm going to get mine and you don't matter.
I used to make this argument about the rise of hip hop back in the day, that when I would sit and watch BET, was it 106 in Park, right? It was the top 10 list for all the hip hop songs. And I remember in high school, coming home and smoking weed in high school, and you see the world a little differently than you would normally,
Yeah.
And I remember thinking why are the top 5 songs always pushing a very negative lifestyle? That's a weird, never an R&B song. It's always be a criminal. And then years later, you have the founding members of the NWA sit down on a podcast and explain so I'll leave it out. The owners of the hip hop labels were also the guys that started the private prison institutions. They invested money into private prisons. And the argument from the NWA guys is they specifically encouraged music that would encourage a specific lifestyle in order to catch you on the back end. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it's not crazy.
No.
Crazier stuff has happened.
Yeah.
No doubt. Well, I mean, you think about it like this. I mean, if we,
What a better way to
especially
control.
like slavery, you can't have slavery, right?
No, you can't have slavery,
have slavery
but you can't have
anymore.
Section 8 housing and government assistance.
Africa can have slavery.
Yeah, well, there's more human sex slaves in the United States today than there has ever been slaves on planet Earth before in human history, and we just ignore it.
Shut up, dude. Don't talk about it.
Totally true fact. It's terrible. It's just awful.
How would it benefit our society if we were able to legalize slavery? Right? Now, I pose that question with how big are our prison institutions?
Yeah.
You know what
And
the question
are our prison institutions not one giant cesspool of fucking slavery?
You know what pisses me off? Just to my core. You say this word, it's going to sound bad, but I've got a point.
Man, I think we're going to say the same thing.
When you say the word slavery, what race of people do you immediately think of?
Right.
Yeah.
That pisses me off to a fundamental core. Here's why. Name me a country that
Hasn't.
up to the 1900s did not start from slavery.
America
A
was the ones
single
that
country, a single regime, a single anything that did not build its back off of slavery. Slavery, wrong. But it pisses me off that it is attributed and like that it is that it has been brainwashed into society that when you think slavery, right, you think America and enslaving black slaves.
Yeah.
It is horrible. There were Asian slaves, there were Irish slaves, there were Roman slaves, there were Celtic slaves.
Every type of human has enslaved every type of
British
human.
slaves, yes.
Yeah,
Very much so.
When you love when Tucker Carlson talks about all the wonderful architecture in Europe and he doesn't understand why
Slaves.
Yeah, dude.
Have you seen those monuments in Rome?
Can
Slaves.
I pose this question because this is something I love bringing up a lot when you start going down the road of slavery. Okay, so for sake of argument, I'm not going to say that slavery was not like a bad lifestyle. Being a slave, I'm sure, is not good. You are owned by another human being. If the person believes in owning you, there's no way it's not good. Someone may not be coming to your house and beating you every night to make you go to work, right? But if your life in the United States in 2024 is a 40-hour work week or a 60-hour work week, right? How much time do you actually spend with your family? How much time do you spend on your own? And what does your money go to? So if the only thing that your money goes to after you're done, you pay your taxes to your overlords, and then you grocery shop and you pay your insurance and you pay your cell phone bill, and do you have anything left over? Where does being a working man and a slave start and end? You know? Because like as a slave, I'm fed, I'm clothed, I'm housed. Like where does being a slave and being a worker, where does that line actually cross?
It's a really good point.
Because I think there's a lot of people, especially in the last 4 years with the destruction of our economy, there are a lot of people that are in some level of modern day slavery where they work. It's been me the last 3 years after the fire department ruined my life.
Tune in next week for our conversation about tax slavery.
All I've done for the last 2 years is work just to pay my taxes, just to not go to jail over credit card defaults, and you know what I mean. Like where is that line of worker versus slave?
Yeah, very much so, man.
The Industrial Revolution in the United States, convincing women through women's suffrage that they needed to work, it doubled the worker supply, so you could cut their cost in half. And that destroys the family, and then now everybody's
standardized. You standardize a 40-hour work week. You understand that most people are going to spend more times with their coworkers than they are with their family to live in a house that they can't really afford, and
and the American dream, right? The American dream is a house you can't afford, a car you can't afford, a vacations you can't afford, that's the American dream.
Yeah, live on credit, and then ultimately it is slavery. And if you trade your time for money like that, if you're trading your time for money, and you have to go to work and trade that time for the exact amount of money that you're earning, and then turn around and bring it back, the only way, in my opinion, to genuinely get out of that and avoid like fundamental slavery that we have in the United States is to go in the description and join the 2A Pro course, because the 2A Pro course, this program that we put together.
I got the sales pitch. All money is your time. It's a valuation of your time. You trade time for a monetary supply that you can then buy time back with.
Yeah.
I go to work so that I have money so that I don't have to do the repair on my house. I can pay someone else to do it, and now I get that time back.
Because I'm too busy
the actual currency is time.
The slavery
Seen the
line.
movie?
Yeah.
In Time with Justin Timberlake.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The slavery line is when you are trading your time for money, but your money isn't buying any of your time back. And that's where most Americans are these days.
Yeah.
When you were living paycheck to paycheck and a $600 bill would crush your family, then you don't have money to buy time back.
Right.
And you're a fucking slave.
Hi.
Yep. Indeed. Yeah. And I've seen the movie. I just have no idea what the movie was about because I got lost in Timberlake's eyes the entire time I was watching it.
Really? It's Timberlake that got you? Oh man, his love interest in that movie is.
Anyways, with that, any closing thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, anybody else that pops into your head other than Lucas Bakken, who says that gay people shouldn't own guns?
Man, yeah, we went like this is like a long ass podcast, and we hadn't even. No one had brought up Lucas Watkins.
I know. Well, I mean, it's kind of implied. Really, that's all I have. I mean, this has been a lovely 2.5 hour podcast.
Has anyone ever called him Boot Kiss Lotkins? Because that's like the best.
That's nice.
It is.
See, the reason why we actually need podcasts at the very end of the day, is because I always I have to leave at 6 o'clock, go pick my daughter up from soccer practice. And so I will literally say, we are done. I'm leaving. And then we'll be like, all right.
All right. That's the show. Bye.
Yeah. No. I've got nothing else. Get in the Discord. Stop being a slave. Build a business in the Second Amendment. Click the link down in the description. And with that,
we bid thee
a queef.